step 10 if the police have not covered step 1 to 9, and the police have bungled at every step. You look at what has happened, and Parshuram can also add in over here, from the day the FIR was filed. Why did they have to take 2-3 days to go and make a 164 statement? When did they do the medical? Did they secure the other children in the hostel? Did they prevent the alleged accused from entering that hostel so that whatever might be the evidence that the police can garner will be kept safely? No, none of that was done. In fact, like you had mentioned, this is a virus. This man was having and taking walks in his matta, addressing large gatherings, talking about his innocence and conspiracies. But the moment he surrenders and the police have to take him into judicial custody, this man has got chest pain, nose pain, and every other pain under the sun. Probably the doctors must treat him for psychosomatic issues, because now he's not only mocking all of us, but the state machinery. And the politicians are hand in glove. So the police, their hands are tied. They have not been able to follow the procedure as laid down by law. And when rule of law is not followed by those who have to enforce the law, what justice can these children expect?
So let me now bring in Ms. Prahlad and also Mr. Vijay Kumar. Mr. Vijay Kumar, what we are seeing, we're not getting into the particularities of it. What we are seeing here is an unfortunate loss of confidence in those that are meant to enforce the law. All of this is raising questions about the capacity of the police to act without fear or favor. Your response?
Is it to me?
Yes, sir. Mr. Vijay Kumar, go ahead.
Mithun. My name is Mithun Vijay Kumar. Actually.
Yes.
Yes. So see, if this incident has really happened, it's a very heartbreaking incident, and I don't know how to justify it. But if it has not happened, there is another side that we are not discussing at all. It's a dangerous. If it has not happened, then it's a dangerous message to the society that no matter how powerful you are, no matter how powerful you are, the laws formulated for the protection of the weaker sections of the society could be misused against just anyone. It could be you, me, or anyone, any Swami or any politician. It can happen with anyone. And let me tell you, the POXO cases or the rape cases, there have been POXO cases registered against mothers. There have been POXO cases, false POXO cases, I'm saying. Last year, a mother in Kerala was acquitted when a false POXO case was registered and saying that her 13-year-old son was being abused by her for 3 good years. And this has happened. We have such evidences. We have such statistics in this country that these laws formulated for the protection of the weaker section is being misused to a large extent. Even women protection laws, rape laws, all these are being abused. In such a case, how can we take one side? How can we, not look at it from the other perspective? Okay. Now, we are all saying that the police is kind of, they have delayed the investigation.
Quick responses. Okay, fair enough. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that, look, this could be another travesty against a powerful individual. Draconian laws are being used, perhaps.
There is a possibility.
I don't agree with you. But I'm going to reserve my comment for a little later. Ms. Adige raised her hand. She wants to respond. One second, sir. One second. Ms. Adige raised her hand. I'll tell you. Ms. Adige raised her hand. Quick response, and then I want to bring in Ms. Prahlad. Yes.
This is a typical gender stereotypical response from a society like ours that is largely patriarchal. Cast aspersions on the children, on the victim, on the survivors. Cast aspersions, malign them, you shatter their character, and then now let us see who believes them. The POXO law has been formulated on the premise that it is a special law where children will be believed. And Parshuram already explained, they did not immediately run to the police to register FIR. The children went through several sessions of counseling. You do understand what several sessions of counseling mean. To ascertain, so that the child is not confused, so that there are no convoluted statements, so the child is very clear. Maybe the child is not having words to speak. So there is a lot that is done by counselors to reach a stage where they would say, I think we may have a case. But
Okay.
still, let us go before the Child Welfare Committee. Don't cast aspersions on the children.
Okay, don't do
Whatever
that.
might be the
And
rivalries.
that's the point that I wanted to make, but it's been so beautifully made by Ms. Adigate tonight. Ms. Prahlad, how do you respond to what Mr. Naidu and also Mr. Vijay Kumar are saying at a time when it looks now increasingly that we may not actually have a fair investigation?
My point in this, I've been on the television for the last 2 days also, like most of them, and what I want to say is that what we have faced is this marriage between religion and politics, and we have to, as a society, understand that politics is different from religion and somehow keep them separate, because right now we will see that all the politicos are in favor of this religious head, and then because it's the election year and because there's a 17% vote at stake in Karnataka, nobody wants to take a public stand. And now they're saying that even the police, has to take, orders from the chief minister or from the government. Institutions have to be given power and authority to carry out their job profile and what is expected of them without fear or favor. And that is how a democracy can function. And Rahul, I think I'm getting an echo on my own voice, so can you please ask them to reduce that? Because
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, we'll just work on it. Yes, go ahead.
So thank you. Thank you. So what I want to really say is that I agree largely with what Brinda has been saying, because this is a patriarchal society and they are the powerful, they are the rich, and they are these men who all kind of shield one another and don't want to give away anybody else's flaws or faults, and I think that in a democracy the law has to operate. There are SOPs for the police. They should have gone by the SOPs and by the POCSO Act and arrested this man. And this whole facade, the farce of having chest pain after you're arrested, and he was not even taken to Davangere Medical College, which is next door, but was brought to Bangalore to Jayadeva Institute of Cardiology. Why, for God's sake? And then he was trying to be shifted to the ICU. I mean, why do these powerful and rich men suddenly develop heartache?
Because the system allows it. Because the system allows it, and the system is on test, viewers.
With law.
Absolutely, all of us are also on test.
Yes,
don't think you're absolved.
I agree with you 100%.
Don't you think that any one of you is absolved?
And
you are.
Rahul,
Yes, 1 second. I have to say this because we are wrapping out now, viewers. We've run out of time.
Let us just remember, Rahul.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let us just remember. Yes.
No, I just want to say that even before. Let us just remember that, even before he was arrested yesterday, there was a medical examination carried out.
There was.
In the Mutt itself.
That is why today the system is on test. And so is your response, viewers. Your response can make the difference. I am not saying today that anyone is guilty. Under the law, you are innocent till you are convicted of a crime. That is the Indian system. But the only way you can separate the truth from the lies, the wheat from the chaff, is by actually investigating fairly. If even that is compromised, there is going to be no proof. And if there's not going to be proof, there will be a let-off. And haven't we seen that on several occasions, viewers, when it comes to the powerful and the influential? He is not the first here, and he won't be the last religious head across any denomination to be asked questions, troubling questions. And in the past, some have turned out to be individuals of clay. There is a probability here that there is more to this matter than meets the eye. But we will never know. If those, as Brinda Adige said, who are entrusted to uphold the law don't apply it, that it be a bigger travesty. I leave it at that, viewers. We will be focusing on this story. Times Now always fights the fight of those who don't have a voice. Remember that. We're not going to go away.
Times Now special broadcast. In today's episode of Inside Karnataka, we discuss about the upcoming BBMP election. What do these polls mean for the citizens of Silicon City? What's at stake for the political parties? We give you all these details and much more in the next half an hour of this special broadcast.
Bengaluru, the capital city of Karnataka, has a robust culture of civic activism. It's also an IT hub and in many ways a symbol of the vast strides India has made in the last few decades in the field of technology. It's a cosmopolitan city attracting talent from all parts of the country, a huge recipient of foreign investment, and a place that also stands out for its pleasant weather and greenery. But there are serious questions to be asked of the city's civic governance. Is Bengaluru's infrastructure really commensurate with its status as an international city? What of those tasked with the responsibility of ensuring an efficient municipal administration? Why is it that Bengaluru continues to be afflicted by serious civic apathy, not on the part of its citizens, but its administrators?
When it comes to the BBMP elections, and of course with the elections around the corner, we definitely have to talk about politics, and we have. But what are the core issues that plague the BBMP? What are the problems that the Bangaloreans really want addressed? To talk more about this, I have two prominent Bengalurians here with me. Srinivas, who's a very prominent civic activist from Bengaluru with Janagra at the moment. Also Ian Faria, life coach, and also a very popular face in the city. Thank you to both of you all for joining us on this special broadcast. Firstly to you, Srinivas, what are the biggest issues that plague the BBMP and Bengaluru?
Deepak, the depends on who you ask. Bengaluru now has 1.4 crore population. Our own Janagra survey shows that water, for example, is a big issue for the poor, whereas water is not at all issue for the rich. Footpaths are a common issue across rich, poor, men, women, age group, younger, older people. Traffic, everyone thinks traffic is a big problem, but only for the rich people. Not so much for the lower middle class and the poor people. Traffic doesn't feature as a big issue. The development of Bengaluru has become unequal. We found out that 97% of people know the name of the Prime Minister. 89% could name the Chief Minister.
All the top stories on the show tonight, viewers.
In a mega Vikas push, PM Narendra Modi launched infrastructure projects worth rupees 3,800 crore in the pole-bound state of Karnataka. In a big win for EPS, Madras High Court upheld the validity of AIDMK General Council meeting. Reacting to the High Court order, OPS said he will challenge it in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court refused to entertain a plea seeking an SIT probe into the Kashmiri Hindus genocide. Another non-local labourer attacked in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama. The labourer sustained gunshot wounds. Hunt for terrorists in the case underway. Hailing UP government's decision to conduct survey of unrecognized madrasas, Union Minister Viraat Singh demanded a similar survey to be conducted in Bihar. ED questioned TMC MP and Mamata Banerjee's nephew Abhishek Banerjee in connection with the ongoing coal scam case. The Supreme Court has granted interim bail to Teesta Setalwad after she was in custody for over 60 days.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the era of Atmanirbhar Bharat. This engineering marvel that you are seeing on your screens is a testimony that India is a major stakeholder in global world power. INS Vikrant is the largest ship ever made in India by Indians, and it is the biggest nightmare for our enemies. This 262 meters long and 62 meters wide beast of a ship consists of 14 decks with over 2,000 compartments which can carry around 1,600 sea warriors and has been built at an overall cost of close to 20,000 crore. It's not only a floating city but a floating airfield as well. Prime Minister Modi said that this aircraft carrier is a testimony of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say this morning when he unveiled this world record setting ship.
विक्रांत विशाल है, विराट है, विहंगम है। विक्रांत विशिष्ट है, विक्रांत विशेष भी है। विक्रांत केवल एक युद्धपोत नहीं है, ये 21वीं सदी के भारत के परिश्रम, प्रतिभा, प्रभाव और प्रतिबद्धता का प्रमाण है।
But with the arrival of one of the biggest disruptors in maritime history, the fight for credit too erupted. Congress termed that INS Vikrant is a collective effort of all governments since 1999, but the Prime Minister ignores the continuity in governance. On the other hand, taking a swipe, Owaisi said that with the commissioning of the new ship, Prime Minister will finally have the courage to address the China issue. Listen in to Asaduddin Owaisi.
I am very much surprised and saddened that the Prime Minister of our country and his government is not willing to sanction a third aircraft carrier which is very much needed for our country. This clearly shows that the economy, Indian economy has been destroyed under the stewardship of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi.
इंडियन नेवी के डिज़ाइनर जो हैं, इंडियन नेवी के इंजीनियर हैं, इंडियन नेवी के अफसर हैं, कोचिन शिपयार्ड में जो लोग काम करते हैं, 20-22 साल लगे हैं डिज़ाइन करने में, मैन्युफैक्चर करने में, ट्रायल करने में। आज के प्रधानमंत्री तो फोटो लेंगे, बड़े बड़े भाषण देंगे और कहेंगे मैं आया 2014 में ये सब शुरुआत हुई। ये बिल्कुल गलत है, बेबुनियाद है।
INS विक्रांत तो प्रतीक है कि हमारे सामरिक समृद्धि का, ताकत का। और प्रधानमंत्री जी को ज़रूर पता होगा कि 2009, 11 और 2013 उनके आने से पूर्व 3 महत्वपूर्ण माइलस्टोन्स, अगर अपने भाषण में उसका भी जिक्र करते तो एक बृहद संदेश जाता।
But can the Congress really claim its credit right on INS Vikrant? Congress says that it's a collective effort since 1999, but UPA's Defence Minister in 2014 in Parliament had said that the government does not have any money for defence modernisation. The Congress said that AK Antony launched INS Vikrant in 2013, but the reality is that only phase 1 contract out of 4 were signed. Congress claims that the original INS Vikrant that served us well in 1971 war, but it was Vajpayee government that initiated this project of INS Vikrant. The opposition also claims that self-reliant India existed even before 2014, but conveniently forgets Rajiv Gandhi and his family used INS Vikrant's predecessor, INS Viraat, as a getaway ship for their vacation in 1987. India is not only turning the tide in its favor, but is also shedding the signs of slavery. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Indian Navy got a new ensign too. The new ensign drops the St. George's Cross and introduces Indian Navy crest on a navy blue background enclosed in an octagon representing the royal seal of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, a departure from the colonial mindset. Listen in to what the Prime Minister said.
भारतीय नौसेना को एक नया ध्वज मिला है। अब तक भारतीय नौसेना के ध्वज पर गुलामी की पहचान बनी हुई थी, लेकिन अब आज से छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज से प्रेरित नौसेना का नया ध्वज समंदर और आसमान में लहराएगा।
Accusing the Congress party of banking on colonial mindset, the BJP slammed the UPA government for bringing back the ensign in 2004 after Vajpayee government had replaced it with the Ashoka Stamp with anchor. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Put Bharat on the backseat then, why claim credit now? That's the question and that's the debate.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight on top of the Newshour is General VP Malik, former Army Chief. General VP Malik, with the inauguration of INS Vikrant today, I want to ask you, how important is this induction for India's defense preparedness?
Navika, firstly, I must congratulate everyone who was involved in making of this aircraft carrier. The Naval Warship Design Bureau, as well as the Navy and the Cochin shipyard. It was a requirement for a long time, and I'm glad that we have got the second aircraft carrier. I must also mention here that it is a totally indigenous effort, both designing as well as making of it. Almost 75% parts have been they are Indians, and very little has been imported from abroad. And indigenization, I must add here, is no longer a choice for India. It has become a necessity. So under the current geopolitical environment, I think it's a great step that we have taken, and the whole nation needs to be proud of it. Now, as far as the strategic aspects and where the aircraft carrier comes in, as you all know, I think these days that unified war fighting concept is what we follow, in which all the three services, Army, Navy and Air Force, with the support of civil, that is how we fight the war today. And the Navy has got an important role, and considering the long coastline, almost 6,800 I think kilometers of coastline, we have got an EEZ of over 2 million square kilometers. We've got 600 island territories. Not many people know the number, but looking at both the in the Arabian Sea as well as in the Bay of Bengal, that is the number of this thing. And of course, what is very important is the kind of role that we have in the Indian Ocean. The number of ships that go past, both the merchant navy as well as the fighting ships. Our own 95% of our exports, our imports come via the ships. And of course, what about the oil that we have to import? Most of the oil is also imported through this thing. So it has become a very important weapon system, I would call it, along with the aircraft that it carries. And it was a requirement which has been met today. It's going to take 1 more year for it to be fully ready, because the aircraft, they have to be tested. A number of aircraft, they're still being chosen. They will be tested. But it's a great step that we have taken, and I would say a very important step that we have taken in our national security.
General VP Malik, you of course congratulated the Navy, you congratulated the Cochin shipyard. Of course, these are very important people who have spent day and night over the last several years trying to build this aircraft carrier. But there's also political issues. While I don't want to, drag you into the politics of this, the fact is that this aircraft carrier was envisaged to be made in 1999. it's finally going to be commissioned in 2023 with the inauguration happening today. Which government's commitment does it really represent that we are seeing this dream being converted into reality?
Navika, as you said, I do not like to get involved in the politics. But let me give you the history of this. Yes, you are right. Soon after Kargil war, this requirement was accepted in the government. Whichever government, you know it and I know it because Mr. Bajpayee's government at that time.
Yes.
Then, but the full decision was taken, I think, sometime in 2009. And the keel was laid, most probably, I think, in 2013. So it has taken a long time. And it would be fair to give credit to both the governments, from the NDA as well as the UPA. But I would say that maybe the greater credit would go to the present government, which has really pushed this whole effort. And from 2014 onward, it has been pushed. And it has now come through. So particularly the kind of push that the present government has given on Atmanirbharta, as I said earlier, indigenization has become not a choice, it has now become a necessity. And under the present circumstances, it is good to have as much of Atmanirbharta in our defense equipment and weapons as we can. And this is one great example, aircraft carrier Vikrant, where the design was done by the Navy and the making construction with the support from the Navy, it was done in the Cochin shipyard.
Amazing. As always, General VP Malik, you are straight, direct. You never leave anything to chance, and you say it just in such a dignified manner that, facts of history and facts of the present day, get seen in the correct context as they should be. Thank you very much, General VP Malik, for joining me on the Newshour tonight.
Thank you, Navika. Thank you.
And joining me on the other side, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Major General G.D. Bakshi, Defence Expert, Sameer Singh, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, Ajay Shukla, Strategic Affairs Expert. But my first question goes to Sanjay Jha, suspended leader of the Congress Party. And Sanjay Jha, rather churlish of Mr. Jairam Ramesh to begin the entire debate on the issue of INS Vikrant with the issue of credit sharing. Is it really about credit sharing? And if you heard General VP Malik, he sets the record straight even on that score. Do you think it's important to bring in petty politics into everything?
Well, almost I would like to say that defense brought a long gestation period. In fact, they go through several governments. And Jairam gave replacement. I think petty nuclear at all. It was about 1999 he recognized the role of Bajpayee government. So I think Jairam was actually being extremely, what I call is ecumenical in his approach, is to say that ultimately whether it's even economic policies, they are making them fructify over governments. So to one party to take credit, I think that in a great number of ways it's an act of political, I would say, opportunism, because it basically does not recognize the vision of the others. By the same logic, then now the cake and eat it too, if many of the defense forces people in General who have said that in only 50% of Indian defense equipment is called as the art, then let the BJP take responsibility. You have had only for the last 8 years what about it. I'll give you two more data points because you got quite a few veterans of the show like Shukla as well. Over the last decade, Navika, share.
Why do you want to call Ajay Shukla a veteran?
Okay.
I mean, he's young. He's got his facts on his fingertips, but he's not a veteran.
Well, okay. apologize to you, Ajay, and I'll leave you to handle that one. Navika's really cracked there. But if you look at the defense outlay over the last, let me say, 10 years on capital expenditure, the highest was 30% during the time of the UPA. 2011-12, it is down to somewhere 22 to 23% of Mr. Modi's government. So these are critical issues. And one more point on the Navy. I dug up Navy, Navika, this is interesting. The Navy actually asked for a defense requirement of 70,000 crores. Guess how much the 2021 budget, fiscal budget? Half the amount at 33 crores. So I think there are
says the man whose party said paisa hai hi nahi, sab kuch band kar do. Abhi, there is going to be next 2 or 3 or 4 budgets that you'll have to wait for getting any money for modernization. Well, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, is the Congress being economical with the facts? Because the issue here is not just about what happened and when the keel was laid. The fact is, Vajpayee ji thought about this and brought this thing on the table in 1999. Till 2009, nothing really happened. And between 2009 and 2013, you heard what General VP Malik had to say. Why is it that credit opportunism is just so important for the Congress party?
The biggest policy decision which Modi government has taken, it is the emphasis on the defense production. Otherwise, we can easily understand that we were the country, even during the previous governments, we were capable of making the intermediate range balancing missile, but we were not capable of making rifles and pistols. We were capable of making the Chandrayaan, but we were not capable of even doing maintenance of the fighter aircrafts. Does this thing sounds logical? No, it's not logical. We were capable, but we were not given capability, or the then government was not trying to do so, because they might be interested in doing other things, that the purchase should go on and the other things should carry on. And as far as the defense policy is concerned, the then defense minister A.K. Antony ji's statement is on the floor of the house that as far as the infrastructure on the Chinese border is concerned, it was our long stated policy that there is no need of any infrastructure on the borderline. That's why the China is ahead of infrastructure. Is this anything which can be refuted or anything which can be argued? I think as far as the defense is concerned, we should have an unequivocal commitment. For example, in 1974, when Congress government was there and Indira ji conducted nuclear test, we supported. In 1998, when Vajpayee government conducted nuclear tests, so many questions were raised. What was the need? Why was it done? What was the danger, and so on. And so is the thing that whether it is a surgical strike, that's also the how you psychologically deal with the defense force. Surgical strike or Balakot, you always ask the question. So as far as the defense force is concerned, whether it is empowering them with power, empowering them with manufacturing, empowering them with material, every aspect Modi government has done tremendous work. I think cutting across the party line, we should come and support him.
Well, let me get in Ajay Shukla. And Mr. Ajay Shukla, I want to ask you, there is no reason that debate on defense issues should get into the region of which government did what. The question is, has there been a renewed attempt to emphasize defense procurement in the present government, and the fact that there is a milestone that has been set today is something that should be celebrated. I just want to ask you, when every issue lands into a mess of whether Rafale should be bought and what is the kind of kickbacks that have come in, whether it is the issue of INS Vikrant, who did what and why is credit not being shared. Do you think this is something that can be avoided as far as defense procurement issues is concerned, strengthening of our defense forces is concerned?
Yeah, but I think the first thing that we need to sort of sort out in a sort of parliamentary manner is whether I'm a veteran or not. What exactly is a veteran according to you?
According to me, I thought you were young enough and therefore should not be called a veteran. And I thought Sanjay Jha was just making a pun, because probably you have grayer hair, he has no hair at all. Just that.
No, just to sort of correct you, a veteran is somebody who served 20 years in
I
the
was
military.
punning on it, Ajay Shukla, not important.
No, but the people who are listening to you on this show will not understand that you're punning. So let's just clarify first that I am a veteran.
Absolutely, you are a veteran in that sense, and yes,
in every sense, I'm a veteran.
Okay,
I fulfill all the qualifications for being a veteran. I've served more than 20 years. I've commanded a combat unit. General Bakshi, of course, will know all of this. But since you've called me on your show, let's just clarify that I am a veteran.
All right.
But the point you're making is a valid one. There has been in the past a sort of element of foot dragging when it comes to buying equipment, and even more foot dragging when it comes to making it in our country. And I think that the Modi government definitely should be given credit for the emphasis that it has placed on Atmanirbharta, which is sort of India for itself and India for self-sufficiency. I think that in this particular case, the case of the aircraft carrier, it has been through so many governments that it is really difficult for one government to step up and say, I did it, because there was delay on the part of each one of these governments, and there was positive steps on the part of each one of these governments. But that having been said, for an aircraft carrier where steel cutting and so on began in 2003, and is now being commissioned 19 years later in 2022, there cannot be an excuse for this. This is simply unacceptable. This is a complete blow on the readiness of our armed forces, and without getting into who's which government and who and what not, I would only just put it to you that I agree with you that we cannot continue in this manner any longer.
Well, General G.D. Bakshi, Ajay Shukla says, let's not get into who the delays were due to. But if the Congress party comes up and says upfront that credit should be shared, then should an analysis of where the delays happened and why has it taken 19 years not also be looked at? And also the colonial hangover that was deliberately brought back, shouldn't that also be questioned at this point in time? Because it's been raised by the Congress party. Nobody else wanted to politicize this issue, but the Congress party made the first step.
Let me add to what Ajay has said. Despite his young looks, he is a veteran. Let's be very clear on that. But the point at issue is, most of us in the armed forces see the decade before 2014 as a particularly hopelessly lost decade in terms of defense acquisitions. Let me put it in context. You see, we were doing very well when the Soviet Union in its heyday was supporting us in the 71 war, post 71, in the 80s. They gave us the cutting edge weapon technology for the cost of bananas and tea. You see, and suddenly in 1991 the Soviet Union collapsed. We had a huge problem. Let us also not forget that was around the time in which also our economy came virtually close to collapse. We were told then by the Narasimha Rao government, the armed forces were told, sorry, there is no money. You'll have to wait till our GDP comes up, and only then we can give it to you. Desperate measures had to be taken then. In the General Malik era, General Malik was just on the air, we had to start suppressing manpower to try and switch revenue from switch money from the revenue budget to the capital budget. I was in the military operation directorate at that time and even subsequently. So then, fortunately our economy because of liberalization caught up, and then we thought that we would now catch up with lost time, because most of the weapons, Soviet weapons we had bought in the 60s and 70s were now reaching obsolescence. That was the time we were alarmed that because of the ghost of Bofors, I mean, nobody wanted to sign a defense contract unless it was for VVIP helicopters. Then it was signed in double quick time, but the replacement of aircraft, the replacement of tanks, etc., that took inordinate level of time. I mean, it really spooked us. People broke out in cold sweat in that era. You know, the simple fact of the matter is that there were delays and delays, and because of that, the Soviet equipment, we are still flying the MiG-21s because there were a refusal to take decisions. A refusal to take decision that Anthony was Saint Anthony. He said, my dhoti is white, I wouldn't like it splotched by any this thing, and yet every deal that was actually done, they came up with so many stings in the tail later. So the point at issue is, you must give this government credit for speeding up defense acquisitions, for going in for autarky in weapons acquisition, for going in for self-reliance in a major way. Previously, what was self-reliance? Semi-knockdown kits, completely knockdown kits, assemble them like a Meccano set. And when we asked them, okay, make this modification in the MiG-21 so that it carries a machine gun, they couldn't do it. Because we had an optical illusion of
self-reliance. Absolutely. Sanjay Jha, do you want to contest General G.D. Bakshi on any fact?
Well, I just want to make two very quick points here. And, I don't think we should try and make this into a heavy-duty political slugfest. But number one, where the Rafale jet order is concerned, and I want to go back to that, the UPA had it for domestic indigenization. It was Mr. Modi's government that has looked at actually importing it in the condition in which it is being imported today. A very blatant exhibition of, what you say and what you do. The second point, when the Chinese have actually been so aggressive on Ladakh, the question needs to be asked, why is Mr. Modi's government actually being extremely conservative in its response? Because it doesn't have the confidence in its own military capabilities to take on the Chinese. That's a fact, and it cannot be ignored. My third point, the Congress has been at the helm of affairs during the 1947, 1965, 1971 wars, successful triumphs. And let me tell you, Navika, even in 1999, in the Kargil victory that we had, it was a Bofors gun. Let's not politicize it. And the defense equipment wouldn't have been got by Vajpayee's government in 1 year, right? So it was a historical legacy of the Congress party that really came into play.
Well, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Sanjay Jha actually talks about the fact that India is scared of China, as if it has a good record from 1962 of India engaging with China. But let me come back during the UPA era when Army Chief General V.K. Singh at that point of time had said, and he had pointed towards the sorry state of India's combat readiness, the Parliamentary Standing Committee had also made recommendations at that time. There was critical shortage of ammunition, huge gaps in the required and existing force levels. I mean, A.K. Antony was on record to say, we are not going to go ahead, we don't have the money. And then he's also made the statement of how, absolutely pure white he was, and he wasn't going to dip his hands into any of the muck that he was possibly being pushed into. So Dr. Anand Ranganathan, it's very grand for Sanjay Jha to say this today that, why is it taken so long? When did the slowdown in procurement actually begin?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to all my co-panelists. Navika, let's get one thing straight. That defense, science and space programs, they span decades and across governments. And so every government should be credited. Like for Tejas and Chandrayaan and Arjun and Mangalyaan or vaccine research. Don't bring politics into science, because then all you'll end up with is political science. The problem comes when the Congress takes it to extreme. They don't need to, and that is what is needless. So every time India under Modi accomplishes something in science, technology, defense, space, they start crediting Nehru for it. Nehru built this, Nehru built that, this is because of Nehru, that is because of Nehru. अगर हम सांस भी ले रहे हैं तो वो नेहरू जी की देन है. I'm sorry, but it is absurd to credit Nehru for everything. Of course he was great, he did some great things, but please don't credit everything right now to him. Might as well credit Hitler for the 1969 moon landing. Or it wouldn't have been possible without von Braun and V2 technology that the Americans snatched as war spoils. Ideas need to be backed by contemporary, not historical figures. There is no such thing as historical labeling in science and technology. Great research and defense institutes and centers for excellence can crumble within years, even months. Ideas are the product of a human mind, not sanctioned buildings. I'm sorry, science doesn't live in the past. Science is in history. Second point, while it is true that every prime minister belonging to every political party that has been at the helm has contributed in a very large measure to our development in science, technology, medicine and defense. But for Congress to cry vendetta is hypocrisy personified. When was the last time they gave credit to a non-Congress government for any development? Hell, they didn't even give credit to their own leader P.V. Narasimha Rao for literally pulling India from the precipice. 2 गज जमीन भी नहीं दी उनको दफन होने के लिए. 3, it is also a fact that from importing 70% of defense equipment in the 1990s, we are at a stage right now where 64 to 70% of defense equipment is indigenously procured. And I'm sorry, but this has to do with the vision of one and only Dr. Kalam and his so-called iconic self-reliance index that he built in 1992, not any politician. 4, I hope this wonderful aircraft carrier will be pressed into the service of India, and not like 35 years ago when an aircraft carrier was pressed into the service of the holidaying Nehru Gandhi diners with our brave naval personnel forced into taking care of their every vacationing. Navika, just 20 seconds. Today is a historic day. India has joined the rank of 5 nations out of 200 that can build an aircraft carrier. We have a new ensign that incorporates our glorious naval past. Some advance to greatness, others return to it. We as Indians do both, at least tonight. I request Sanjay Jha and the Congress to stop this nitpicking and hail our incredible achievement.
Absolutely, absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. And Samir Singh, I want to ask you, should you not be complimenting the Prime Minister and his government, because for the first time since the early 90s that the import of defense equipment has begun to come down. It has been a rising trend since 1991-92 onwards, and then right up till 2021. It's only 2017 to 2021 that this has come down, and that really shows the impact of Atmanirbhar Bharat that the Prime Minister is so passionate about. Can you actually once in a while forget political party lines and compliment this government for putting the emphasis that was the need of the hour?
Navika, first of all, I have no problem in complimenting Prime Minister Modi or the BJP government for the historic day that we are seeing today, because it is historic and nobody can deny the fact. It is historic and it is a symbol of our superiority, of our defense superiority, as mentioned by another panelist. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. That India has joined the ranks with 5 other countries to have to build an indigenous aircraft carrier. So we are proud of what we've achieved today. The only problem, and I think before answering your question, in fact, I'd just like to point a very small thing that I think today we should be happy that nobody is cribbing that the INS Vikrant is a failure or would be a failure, or there's any sort of sort of corruption that is taking place. So nothing of that sort is happening. Only a small point has been raised, and even in that small point, even in that statement by Jairam Rameshji which he's made, he's also credited, he's also asked that credit should be given to the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government as well. So I don't think you can see a better example of camaraderie if it suits. because it's not just the Congress government that is involved in this project, in the INS Vikrant project, but the Atal Bihari Vajpayee BJP government as well. So if a simple thing is being asked that credit should be given to every government who's been a part of this project, then I see no harm in this, and I think we should not politicize it. And
Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, Samir Singh almost says it in passing that thank God this time there is nobody who's actually criticizing that, oh, there has been a scam, oh, there has been corruption in this particular deal. Choti si baat hai.
All the defense procurement going on in the last 7 and 8 years with full transparency, with full speed and empowering India. Yes, I agree what Anand Ranganathan ji has said and what others have said. Our engineers, our scientists and our soldiers were capable enough, and we should not try to bring politics, but you know how the politics comes. When Atal ji's government came, within 2 months we performed the nuclear test. It doesn't mean that the capability was attained within 2 months. People remember that during the Narasimha Rao government 1995 they tried to perform the test, but there was a pressure from US and they retrieved. That's how the capability of the government comes. Now the second example I would like to quote. After 26/11, our defense forces were ready to take an stern action over Pakistan, which General Bakshi must be knowing, and I am quoting Barack Obama in his book The Promised Land has said, based on his conversation with Manmohan Singh ji during his visit to India in 2010, that after 26/11 the army was ready, but the government has not allowed, then government means Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, because they thought that the environment coming out of this may politically benefit BJP. But when Modi ji's government came, we performed the surgical strike, we performed the Balakot. Here lies the role of the government. The capability of the soldiers, capability of the scientists, capability of the engineers was very much there, but they need a government who can take, like for example, अरे भाई कहा जाता ना, गंगा जी तो भागीरथ प्रयत्न से आती हैं, भागीरथ तपस्या तो साइंटिस्टों ने करके रखी थी, पर कोई शंकर बन के तैयार तो हो सारा झंझावाट अपने सर के ऊपर लेने के लिए, वो गवर्नमेंट ने करके दिखाया. एटलीस्ट वो चीज एक्सेप्ट करनी चाहिए. एंड एज फॉर एज गिविंग क्रेडिट टू वाजपेयी जी's गवर्नमेंट इज कंसर्न, आई वुड लाइक टू रिमाइंड ड्यूरिंग 1999 कारगिल वॉर, यू रिमेंबर, कांग्रेस ने लाहौर बस उलट के दिखाई थी. यू रिमेंबर, बोफोर्स को लेकर वो आए थे एंड देन दे सेड माफी मांगे क्योंकि अब बोफोर्स ही काम आ रही हैं. यू रिमेंबर इन 1998 जाके चेक कर लीजिए, उस समय डिस्पाइट द स्टेटमेंट बाय देन डिफेंस मिनिस्टर जॉर्ज फर्नांडिस दैट आवर न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट वर टू काउंटर द चाइना, नॉट ओनली लुक टू पाकिस्तान, इन द कांग्रेस आस्क्ड व्हाट वाज द नीड, व्हाट वाज द डेंजर एंड अदर थिंग्स. सो द पॉलिटिक्स in the defense was always brought by others. We never tried to bring politics. Again, I would like to remind, in 1971, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji has wholeheartedly supported and hailed the efforts of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, but unfortunately, we never received anything of this sort whenever we have taken. When the Modi ji has conducted a strike, we were asked, ki sabut dijiye, vagera vagera, and so many of those things. When Director General Military Operation has done the press conference, not the Defense Minister, not by any of the government.
Sanjay Jha, you're contesting even these facts?
Well, let me tell you the one factual, major blooper that my friend Sudhanshu ji has done. Have you read A Promised Land by Barack Obama, Sudhanshu ji? Because nowhere does he mention anything about Pulwama or Balakot at all. In fact, Barack Obama...
He did not say about 26/11. He is talking about 26/11. Maybe you need to go back and read the book.
Well, let me tell you, no, 1 minute. 1 minute. In fact, the book, if you read the book... No, 1 minute. Let me put it in perspective. Barack Obama's personal opinion is that Dr. Manmohan Singh handled a situation that could have gone out of hand with statesmanship. I mean, there can be an argument about how...
Oh yes, and if that involved pushing back, Fali Major, then that was also part of not answering the forces, was also part of controlling a situation that would have gone out of hand. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I'm running out of time. 30 seconds to you.
Very, very briefly, Navika, as I said, let's not bring politics into it. And if at all something wonderful is exemplified by that, it is on this panel itself. Now, correct me if I am wrong, these two gentlemen, Colonel Shukla and General Bakshi, are at the polar opposites of the, if I can call it, ideological or political spectrum. But look at the wonderful camaraderie between them. So we have to be like that in matters of defense and science. Number two, Sudhanshuji is absolutely correct. His facts about what happened in the wake of 26/11 as well as the nuclear tests. But I ask him two questions. Number one, Sudhanshuji, did BJP support Dr. Manmohan Singh on the nuclear deal, yes or no? And number two, in the event of all those horrible things that China committed in Galwan 2020, killed our soldiers, had those awful incursions and our literally going to war, why is it that our imports from China have increased to $120 billion, the highest ever?
Well, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi.
As far as nuclear deal is concerned, we were having certain concerns. And if you remember, the civil nuclear liability clause was introduced under our pressure, and finally it concluded during Barack Obama's visit in January 2015 when Modi ji was there at the helm of the affairs. 500 crore se badkar 1,500 crore liability, and at the time the supplier was not ready to accept the liability, but we forced, or rather than we convinced US that the supplier should have the liability, and they accepted the liability. That's what our issue. That's why we were opposing. And nuclear deal, ek hi baat keh dun, Manmohan Singh ji was considered, or there was a perception that he was a weak prime minister, but the only point on which he has gone out of board with full support, it was a nuclear deal. जब संसद के पटल के ऊपर नोटों की बंडल भी दिखाए गए थे कि उस समय कैसे ये किन प्रकार न्यूक्लियर डील पार होनी थी, तो सर आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा, पॉलिटिक्स नहीं आनी चाहिए, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस पे पॉलिटिक्स उसी समय दिख गई थी.
Well, but I'll leave it at the note where we as Indians today stand proud of our forces, stand proud of our engineers who have accomplished this feat. As far as the politics is concerned, it's a parallel track that keeps carrying on. Well, let it carry on, because that's just the way of life in India. But today, every Indian stands inches taller than he did yesterday. Thank you very much to all my panelists for joining me on debate number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it took 6 days and 100 plus hours of hard-hitting reportage to force the Karnataka cops to wake up from their slumber and end the long rope given to rape accused Shivamurthy Murugha. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, after copping out, the police arrested the influential Lingayat seer in a late night action. But just 4 hours after his arrest, the seer was rushed to the hospital after he complained of chest pain. He was seen walking to the hospital ward from the police van on foot, but minutes later was moved to the ICU. Several activists have called this a sham arrest and have pointed out that this could be a tactic to evade jail. Listen in.
The nation was rejoicing yesterday because the Swami was at last supposedly arrested, but not for more than 4 hours. Immediately, he had all kinds of ailments, from COVID after effects to chest pain to whatever pains. This is the disease that only influential, powerful perpetrators can claim. They are mocking the citizens, the state machinery of this great country. He was happily addressing everybody, talking about his innocence. But now, when he has been remanded to judicial custody, he makes all of this drama. What a shame it is.
Okay, at the outset, we welcome the arrest. But all of a sudden he developed chest pain. Okay, a human being may develop that kind of ill health or anything like that. Let him undergo checkup. Let him given the proper treatment. If at all it is a drama, just to avoid the staying at jail because he is under judicial custody, we oppose it. So, shifting him to Bangalore, is it really required?
But the court cut the chase and since the VVIP treatment doled out to the accused here, that's why the Chitradurga court today pulled up up the police for not producing the accused Seer while seeking his custody. The court today even said that if the Seer doesn't have any serious medical complications, he doesn't need to be hospitalized. Now, even as the Seer continues to be in the hospital, the Karnataka government says the probe agencies will do their job without any interference.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಮೊದಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಕಾನೂನು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತನಾಡುವುದು ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ, ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾವುದೇ ವ್ಯಾಖ್ಯಾನ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 2 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And on the debate, Seer arrest sham, I'm joined by Bhavna Ramana, actor, Rahul Ishwar, activist, Saira Shah Halim, activist. But my first question goes to Lalita Kumaramangalam, former NCW chairman. I want to ask you, Lalita Kumaramangalam, is this just a sham? A POCSO Act accused so long was arrested only after the passage of about 152 hours, and then because there was a media frenzy raising the question, and then VVIP treatment, which is the case almost whether it is a politician or it is a godman, what have you. Are they to be treated with kid gloves, especially when the assault of minor girls is the charge against them?
Navika, the law is the law. It should be the same, applied the same way, equally to everybody, regardless. In this case, it's not just about sexual misconduct or sexual harassment or even, rape, which is what I think is the accusation that's been made. It's also that the fact that these are underage girls who have been, whose trust has been abused in the worst possible way. To begin with, the police should have followed the rule of the law. The pressure from the police or from the public or the press or activists, etc., should not have been the factor that forced them into action. There is a very clearly laid out procedural procedural actions that have to be taken in any cases like this. Secondly, POCSO is a non-bailable, non-cognizable offence. So they should have picked up the person who's the accused person right in the beginning, and you can't say he's sick so he's in hospital, etc. If he is sick, the police should actually be there keeping an eye on him. You don't allow anybody to meet him, etc., because this is a very influential person. We know in Karnataka that he comes from a very influential community, and elections are coming up next year. Karnataka votes between the Vokalingas and the Lingayats. This is a Lingayat sir, a very, very powerful man. Seer, not sir. A slip of the tongue. The fear that everybody has in any case that has to do with abuse of people who are from a poorer community, a backward community, is that there may be undue pressure put on the police to go slow, delay it. There are many ways it can be done. I'm sure all of us sitting on this channel know it. But the other side is also there, that the police must not be pressured into presuming that somebody is innocent or guilty. Whereas in a POCSO case, generally under the law itself, it says that you presume guilty till proven innocent. Unlike in most others, where it is the other way around. In this case, it's become such a, I don't know, I don't want to call it a farce, but it has become such a public spectacle that the two main issues here that I see are that the fear of misuse of power, political and otherwise.
But I don't think it was actually misuse of power. Where is the doubt? Where is the doubt about that, Rahul Ishwar? It is the misuse of power that we saw. The man says that he has a chest pain, walks into the hospital, and then suddenly is shifted to the ICU, and then the police realize the faux pas, and when he is taken to the court, a wheelchair appears from nowhere. I just want to ask you. Yes, religion, faith, followers of certain seers. I'm not questioning all of the matters of faith. I'm on 1 minute, Lalita Kumaramangalam. I'm coming to you. 1 minute. I'm only asking you, when there are minor minor girls involved when there are allegations as serious as the one in this case? You know, is there any morality?
The procedure should have been followed.
Any morality, any propriety in the manner in which this case has been done, and political conspiracy, and if somebody is charging somebody, well, it has to be fought in a court of law. That is at the trial stage. But can you actually just sit hand on hand when a POCSO charge has been applied, Rahul Ishwar?
No, I have
Navika ji, 2 points. As we all know, there is political leverage. Nobody need deny that. It's as obvious as daylight and we can all see. But only humble submission is, this person is unlike people like say Nityananda or say even Asaram Bapu.
How do you know? How do you know Saira Shah Halim?
Only a few people came to support him.
But how are you going to give the certificate that he is unlike so and so, he is like so and so? I mean, how do you, is that evidence in a court of law?
No, that's not evidence in a court of law. He should fight. He should establish that Basavarajan is behind it. But only one submission is there. In a nation like India, where people and parties are divided over everything, it would be a great sight to see D.K. Shivakumarji on one side and Yediyurappaji on the other side voicing the same thought. Because this man has credentials. Yes, there is a Lingayat factor, Lingayat Veerashaiva factor, 17% vote bank is there. But beyond that, there is a goodness of this man, which is a proven thing. If you ask around, you will know that. So there is a track record. People are at disbelief whether what happened is right or wrong. People suspect Basavarajan. 2 days, these children stayed at Basavarajan's house. We are doubtful whether they are being tutored. Yes, this should all be established in a court of law. But only one thing. Ram Tiwari last 2 months was released. He was in jail for 7 years. He was a Kendriya Vidyalaya teacher. After 7 years, the court found out the POCSO case was false. Neither was the girl raped, nor was she pregnant, nor was she aborted. He was in jail for 7 long years.
Well, so that is a miscarriage of justice in a particular case, but Saira Shah Halim, does that actually give the license to the police in Karnataka to believe that it happened to one man, so therefore it should not happen to this seer, and therefore we will just sit, we will not do anything. It's just coincidental that this seer comes from the Lingayat community, big followers, 30% vote bank for every political party, and therefore minor girls and the rape charges be done.
See, I'll make it very clear that the police took its time to arrest this seer because they were collecting evidences against this person, and after a lot of noise, and I would also give credit to you all also that you all brought this to light. That is the reason the seer has got arrested. Now he's complained of chest pain and he's under medical investigation. That's a separate story, but people should be very clear that if they are in the position of authority, or if they are godmen, or if they belong to a cult, or whoever they might be, they cannot escape the clutches of law if they have been accused of a serious crime. Here this is a POCSO case because there are 2 minor girls involved, and she happened to be a part of, they were previous disciples of this person who very clearly has taken advantage of their trust and betrayed them. So, and there are more voices that are coming out, they are speaking, there are multiple allegations here, so all of them cannot be lying. And a person might be a public person, he might have a public persona, he might be revered by the Lingayat community, however, that does not absolve him of the alleged crime.
That is the important fact, and I want to ask Bhavna Ramana. My question to you is, the arrest has come late, but do you think finally justice will be done? Because as a society, as a community, don't we owe this to minor girls in our society that even the powerful will have to live by the law of the land?
Yes, though there is a delay, ma'am, it is already proven that every powerful man, whatever the bigger position he is in, I think he is just the same in front of the law of our country and this land. That's the beauty of this land and the democracy too. What I would want to say is, since it is about the Matha,
it doesn't just cater to one community, that is Lingayat. It is a epitome of everybody in the society, whether rich, poor, woman, man, or any caste, whether it is Dalit, Muslim, Christian, everybody comes there, Lingayat, non-Lingayat, and the other OBCs, every sector of people, they do come, and they're part of the educational institutions too. They're really studying there. They've been the disciples of that. So it is not just the Lingayat people who being the devotee or a disciple of this institution at all. So that's the kind of mannerism that he has treated the society, and he has kept on practicing the same way. So he has given immense love and affection to everybody, irrespective of the caste and creed or the color or the religion of the society. That is what makes him much more higher than anyone else, probably.
Very true.
And another thing is, I really personally think the politicians or the chief minister of the state or the home minister of the state, if you say there has been a delay, because I don't know the legality of this whole case, I mean like the POSCO, what it demands and things like that, I just feel I understand the nativity of this land, and then when they must have dread, there could be an emotional outrage which couldn't be handled by the police or the government in the right manner. That is the way, that is why maybe they must have really delayed this.
Well, if whether it was delayed to curb any outpouring on the streets of Karnataka, or whether it was just tardy application of the law by the police, the jury is out on that. But it is a country that depends on the constitution of the land, and the law of the land has to apply. There cannot be VVIP treatment either for politicians or cult figures or seers of this kind, even if this case is an allegation which still needs to be proved in a court of law. The facts of the case will have to be fought in a court of law. Law cannot be bent for the high and mighty. That's the big takeaway. Thank you very much to all my panelists, and thank you viewers for joining me on the Newshour tonight. Good night, be safe, but don't go away, because Madhavdas Gopalakrishnan is coming up with the Newshour at 10 on the other side.
The Newshour at 9 will be right back after the break. Hour at 9. You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned.
Raj.
Hello and welcome to this Times Now special broadcast. In today's episode of Inside Karnataka, we discuss about the upcoming BBMP election. What do these polls mean for the citizens of Silicon City? What's at stake for the political parties? We give you all these details and much more in the next half an hour of this special broadcast.
Bengaluru, the capital city of Karnataka, has a robust culture of civic activism. It's also an IT hub and in many ways a symbol of the vast strides India has made in the last few decades in the field of technology. It's a cosmopolitan city attracting talent from all parts of the country, a huge recipient of foreign investment, and a place that also stands out for its pleasant weather and greenery. But there are serious questions to be asked of the city's civic governance. Is Bengaluru's infrastructure really commensurate with its status as an international city? What of those tasked with the responsibility of ensuring an efficient municipal administration? Why is it that Bengaluru continues to be afflicted by serious civic apathy, not on the part of its citizens, but its administrators?
When it comes to the BBMP elections, and of course with the elections around the corner, we definitely have to talk about politics, and we have. But what are the core issues that plague the BBMP? What are the problems that the Bangaloreans really want addressed? To talk more.
Good evening and welcome to the News Hour at 10 agenda. I'm Madhavdas Krishna. It's time to bring a closure to the 32 years of suffering and betrayal meted out to Kashmiri Hindus in the valley. The Supreme Court today put the onus of justice in the center, asking the petitioner to approach the government and make a representation before it as it sought an SIT probe in the killings of Kashmiri Hindus and Sikhs in the 1990s. The court said the issue was purely in the domain of the center.
I think I would welcome it from a point of view that given the bitter experience I personally had, at least they have left the doors open for justice. But judiciary should also remember that it was after we exhausted all our options with the executive we chose to approach judiciary. So there have been multiple memorandums, multiple meetings which have happened with all the governments, Congress as well as Bharatiya Janata Party government. Because there was no response from the government on an action to our satisfaction, we chose to move to judiciary. So I honestly don't know what was the reason behind today's order, but since it keeps the door open and we will like to honor the Supreme Court's order today, we will go to the executive, but to me it is only buying time. They are now treating us like a football between the executive and the judiciary. So on that front I am very disappointed.
We are once again disappointed today, highly disappointed that the Honorable Supreme Court, after acceding to the request of the NGO to listen and hear the petition which they had filed, we request the Honorable Prime Minister, the Home Minister and the Lieutenant Governor of J&K to reopen these cases and appoint an SIT, high-level SIT, which can go into the whole matter once again.
So the ball is in the centre's court now as far as justice is concerned. While the court dismissed the plea seeking to reopen the Kashmir case, there's hope that the Modi government will end this pain and provide justice to the victims of the Kashmir genocide. However, those who continue to dilly-dally in providing justice to the victims for 32 long years are even today mocking the court order.
I think that this is the time when the BJP will be exposed. This is the right time, because I think, and we have been saying from last 7-8 years, that BJP has always used Kashmiri Pandits for vote bank politics. And they have never showed any concern from them, because we have been witnessing how many people have been died in the last 3 months. And I think because when the Chief Minister, former Chief Minister Umar Abdullah was in the government, we tried to set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to extract the truth what really happened in the last 32 years.
कि बीजेपी लेडेड गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ कश्मीरी पंडितों पे सियासत करती है, ये इनको नाम को बेचते हैं, इनके दुख दर्द का इनको कोई लेना देना नहीं है। कश्मीरी पंडित हमारे समाज का हिस्सा है, हमारे भाई हैं, अगर उनके साथ कुछ गलत होता है तो सबको दुख होता है, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी उनके नरसंहार पे भी सियासत करती है, उनके साथ दुख तकलीफ पे भी सियासत करती है, और एक ऐसा फैक्टर है जिसको पूरे देश में बेचना चाहते हैं। जो भी कश्मीरी पंडितों के लिए पॉलिसी है या पैकेज है वो तो हमारी गवर्नमेंट में आया, जब मुफ्ती साहब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर पैकेज आया, उसमें मनमोहन सिंह जी से बात करके जहाँ बहुत सारी बातें उनके लिए कॉलोनियों की बात आई, तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने तो किया कुछ नहीं उनके लिए, ये सिर्फ सियासत करना चाहते हैं। तो आज देखते हैं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी कहाँ पर खड़ी है, ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कितनी सीरियस है कश्मीरी पंडित के लिए।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And for more of this, let's go across to our guest. Joining us live is Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. Ashok Pandit is with us. He's an activist and noted filmmaker. Majid Hydari is a political analyst with us. Ahmed Ayaz is also a lawyer joining us on the broadcast. Waqar H. Bhati is an activist who's with us. Let me start first and foremost with Majid Hydari. Majid Hydari, you know what the court has said today, in many ways obviously puts the onus on the BJP, and the centre will have to walk the talk. There's no denying that. And I'm going to ask them those questions as well. But let me begin by asking you what the root cause of this problem is. Because for 32 long years, justice has not been done. In massacre after massacre, killing after killing, incident after incident, the processes of justice delivery were either deliberately or through acts of commission or omission not delivered. The justice delivery system just simply did not act. You know it as well as I did. So it is successive governments, whether Farooq Abdullah's, whether it is the Muftis, or when Mr. Azad was in power, who have to answer for this.
Well, Madhav Saab, with all due regards and respect towards honorable judiciary, let me say that the highest temple of justice in our country, the highest court of justice in our country, it has been unable to deliver justice towards Kashmiri Pandit community. It's not a simple case. It's a tragedy which has been unending. They were killed. They were massacred, they were made to flee their homes, their property was destroyed, and for the last 32 years they have been unable to get back to their homeland. So the pain which cannot be compared with anything when we can't have water boundaries. But my simple point is that in the last 3 odd decades, BJP has been into power from time to time for the last around 15 years and for the last consecutive 8 years. Why didn't BJP by itself establish a commission of inquiry to give justice to Kashmiri Pandits in a time-bound manner? What has been stopping BJP? When BJP can sell the blood of Kashmiri Pandits for its political gains, for its political motives, why does BJP be silent on this? And why do Kashmiri Pandits need to beg for justice? What has been the role of BJP when it says that Hindutva ki sarkar layenge? Why can't it even deliver justice towards the own Hindu community?
All right, no, you can raise questions of the BJP. You can raise questions of the BJP. No, I am going to ask questions of the BJP. Please be rest assured we have enough time. Sanju Verma, BJP spokesman, is on the panel. But please answer me 2 or 3 very important questions that I want to point out to you. When it came to the NHRC in its 2000 and 2001 report, and through the 90s when Mr. Farooq Abdullah was there in power, they repeatedly said that when the state government was called upon by the Farooq Abdullah government to form a committee to address the grievances of Kashmiri Pandits, the committee was formed, but NHRC observed several irregularities in its function. There is also the case of Sarwanand called Premi, where the Farooq Abdullah government rejected the demand for a CBI probe into the murder. I mean, I can go on reading. This is a very long list. But the point is, while today the BJP is in power, and certainly they should be questioned, no two ways about it, but it is successive governments. And with the Article 370 being in place, it is the state government that has the primary responsibility of these investigations, Mr. Hydari.
See, Madhav Saab, 32 years is too long a time to be into blame game now. Now it's the time for justice, and justice needs to be delivered in a time-bound manner. Let's stop blaming Dr. Farooq, Congress, BJP, etc., etc. If Modi hai to mumkin hai, why not on Kashmiri Pandits? As simple as that. What stops government from ordering a probe? It's a simple kagaz ka tukda decide kar sakta hai Pandit bhaiyon ka, but they are not being given that justice.
Okay,
and it's a collective shame for all of us.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to come to you. There are a number of points. I'm not done with you yet, Majid Hydari and other panelists from Kashmir, because there are a number of questions that need answering. But yes, you have asked a pertinent question. Sanju Verma, the BJP government has been in power in Jammu and Kashmir for over 2.5 years now. Now, when it comes to the ruling party alliance that was there between the PDP and the BJP as well, your government had a stake in power at that time. During all of these periods, Surely, a commission of inquiry could have at least been established, which now the court has asked the petitioners to come to the government and ask for. Why was this not done when Kashmiri Pandits is an issue that BJP has consistently raised?
Madhav, I will answer your very pertinent question, but I was quite surprised. Majid Haidari started by saying that BJP ki galti hai. And then moment you started talking about Farooq Abdullah and Muftis, etc., he started saying, किसी की भी गलती नहीं है, सबकी गलती है. फारूक अब्दुल्ला की भी गलती है, मुफ्ती की भी गलती है, बीजेपी की भी गलती है. I want to fix accountability. Now the point is this. Yesterday, barely 24 hours back, thanks to the Jammu and Kashmir government which filed a petition, the Nandi Marg massacre files of 2003, in which more than 22 Kashmiri Pandits lost their lives, that was reopened by the J&K Ladakh High Court. The J&K Ladakh High Court, earlier remember, had dismissed a petition to reopen the Nandi Marg files. But yesterday the J&K and Ladakh High Court said, fine, let there be a criminal inquiry and a criminal prosecution of everybody who's guilty and culpable. So to say BJP government is doing nothing, please don't be such a big hypocrite. Now the second and important thing, I think that, it's absolutely the right of Kashmiri Pandits to demand justice. They don't need to beg for justice. This is their motherland as much as anybody else's, as much as yours, mine, what have you. But one thing which we need to understand, Madhav, is that there is already a curative petition which is pending dismissal in the Supreme Court. It has been filed by an NGO called Roots of Kashmir. Now, any decision that the Modi government will take will be based on first what the Supreme Court decides to do with this curative petition filed by Roots of Kashmir, which has basically asked for a SIT probe into the
Sanju Verma, today the court has settled
Kashmiri
that.
genocide.
One second. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but let me just correct you on that one count. Today the court has given leave to the petitioners to approach the government and demand a petition or the formation of a commission of inquiry or what have you, whatever the form one chooses to call it, saying that why have you not approached the government? So the ball is firmly in the center's court is something that now the court itself has said that these are purely matters in the domain of the executive. I'm quoting from what the bench has said today. And therefore, as the spokesperson of the ruling party, can you assure our viewers and our panelists that there will be an inquiry commission ordered post haste?
Absolutely, Madhav. And I always say proof of the pudding is in the eating. If you recall, Madhav, after the anti-Sikh genocide of 1984, we had successive Congress governments at the center and nothing was done. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi stormed to power in 2014, he formed a SIT, thanks to which one of the key perpetrators of 1984 genocide, Sajjan Kumar, is today behind prison bars. So if we could do that and bring justice to the 1984, Sikh genocide victims, I see no reason why we'll not do that with the Kashmiri genocide victims. But like I said, the decision to have a SIT probe will, among other things, be also guided by the Supreme Court's decision on the curative petition which is pending the final judgment from the apex court's end.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. There are a number of questions that BJP also definitely has to answer, and we have a Kashmiri Pandit sitting on our panel. But before I go across to Ashok Pandit, I want to get in a question from Mr. Ahmed Ayaz. Ahmed Ayaz, the reaction coming in from various political parties today is absolutely shocking. They are virtually mocking this entire judgment. The kind of tone and tenor of the language that is being used by the valley-based parties, are they betraying nervousness? Are they concerned that their role today may actually get exposed if there is a free and fair inquiry?
No, Madhav, what they mean by by their statements, of course, they would be in a position to explain that well. But what we feel is that it looks to be a priority. It looks to be a misplaced priority. Right now, the priority should have been to see that these Kashmiri Pandits who have been out of Kashmir for last 32 years, to see that how they are brought back and rehabilitated respectively. This is what should have been priority. But to see that a 32-year-old case that how the extradition has taken place is being reopened. It looks to be something where I don't know what do you mean by this, and what do you want to get out of it? Well, if you want to get
so
out
they should
of
not demand justice.
political benefit, yes,
so they should not demand justice. What's happened has happened. पानी सब जेलम में बह गया सर.
Let me complete.
सब सिंधु नदी में बह गया.
Let me complete.
भूल जाओ.
Let me complete.
जो गया वो गया.
Let me complete. We know certainly. No,
but what do you mean by why should they ask for a commission after 32
we know
years?
Certainly that it was a result of the militant. No, my point of telling you is we know for certain that it was a militant related activity, as a result of which they had to flee the Kashmir, they had to leave the Kashmir, and it's all.
What are the acts of omission commissioned by the politicians and administration?
Party, you want to derive benefit of it, that's okay.
What about the acts of omission and commissioned by the executive, by the administration, sir? Why should that be forgiven? Every time there was an inquiry, it was scuttled. Why?
There are many issues. Then there are many issues which need to be inquired into. One is that there had been a mass massacre in the Gaon Kadal also. There had been a mass rapping in the Karan Poshpora also.
Sir, you can inquire everything. You can inquire everything. But there cannot be a system where the justice delivery mechanism fails its citizens. Dozens of citizens are publicly killed, slaughtered, butchered by whoever it may be.
No, we know, but
why not have an inquiry into it? What kind of a democracy allows the justice delivery system to be so badly scuttled, sir?
At every level to see that these things are. No, we know it that there were lapses at every level. Otherwise, why should it take 32 years to investigate an issue? We know there are lapses, but the point is, what are you going to gain out of it after 32 years? That's not understood. Because
what are you going to gain?
Now that you need to have.
Please ask those who have lost.
See that how these.
Please ask those who have lost everything. Ashok Pandit.
Because.
I am amazed sometimes, Mr. Ahmed Fayaz, when I hear these kind of statements. What are you going to gain? You're going to ask people who lost their family, who lost their property, who lost their identity, who lost every way of their living and their culture in the Kashmir Valley. You're asking them, what do you have to gain? Ashok Pandit, what do they have to gain is the question being asked right now.
You know that it has been the administration. It has been the administration.
Sir, I've asked Ashok Pandit to come in now. Let Mr. Ashok Pandit respond to your question of what do you have to gain. Ashok Pandit, would you like to respond to Mr. Fayaz?
Madhav, first of all, I don't feel like, responding to this insensitive people, because they have not lost anything from their house. Now, coming to today's Supreme Court's judgment, where they have rejected our plea. See, we as Kashmiri Pandits, we are used to listen to no. The denials have come to us in these last 32 years constantly. We have always suffered a no from various quarters of, whether it's government, whether it is courts, or whether it is various other areas. Now coming to the denial, if the court has asked us, that we'd approach the government. So I want to make an appeal to the court that don't you think that this is exactly what we are doing from last 32 years? We have approached the government, we have approached the politicians since last 32 years. So that entire exercise of approaching the politics of this country to approach the governments of this country is over. That's why we approached the highest court. It's as simple as that. We are tired of any responses from all the governments, whether it was National Conference, whether it was Congress, whether it was PDP, whether it was earlier UPA governments in the country. Nothing has happened. We are standing there and there itself. We are at the same status. The Supreme Court today at least should have said, please declare this as a genocide of Kashmiri Pandits. Please declare this as genocide. They should have told the government of India at present that please declare this as a genocide. Secondly, please declare them as a displaced status. Please give us the displaced status to Kashmiri Pandits. I think that should have come out from the Supreme Court. You can't be so insensitive. Ki government this table tennis, playing of table tennis, Kashmiri Pandits are used to it. I as a citizen, I as a Kashmiri Pandit, I only want to know, could the Supreme Court today be sensitive enough to understand our issue, to to understand our problem. Just because we are not vote banks, just because we are not violent, just because we have not picked up the guns, just because we are not abusing people, just because we are not nuisance value, you are treating us like people from the no man's land. Don't we have a right
but Mr. Pandit,
to see to it that all the perpetrators of the crime, all those people who have killed us, all the people who have raped us, all those people who are responsible for my genocide should be behind the bars? Don't I have that right to ask for?
no, absolutely. You have every right. You have every right, sir. You have every right, and your community has every right to ask those questions. And I completely empathize with the position and the plight of Kashmiri Pandits. But I have one simple question to you. The court has given you the chance to approach the centre. Are you saying that you do not have faith even in the existing central government or the regime in Jammu and Kashmir?
No, Madhav, it's not that. I'm posing a question to the Supreme Court. Because Kashmiri Pandits have approached that entire process is over. That's what exactly we are doing from last 32 years. It's not that this is the first time we have come to you. The Supreme Court should understand that this entire process of approaching the politics of this country is over.
Sanju Verma, we have been failed by politicians for 32 years, says Ashok Pandit. It is Ashok Pandit who is also very incensed today. What will you say to Ashok Pandit, who says that there's so much injustice, they wanted the courts to come in. Okay, make your point, sir. Make your point. And then Sanju Verma, Ashok Pandit.
Madhav, one sec.
Make your point, please.
Madhav, what I'm trying to say is that the hope to Kashmiri Pandits from the present government is there. We have seen the difference in Kashmir. We have seen what happened in this 1 year of this Syed Gilani's death anniversary. Kashmir would have been burning. There is a lot of changes in Kashmir. There is a lot of hope. There is a lot of positivity. But I am talking from the Supreme Court's point of view.
Okay.
That you have asked us to approach the government.
Okay. Quick response. Vakar Bhatti, I'm coming to you, but before I come to you, quick response from Sanju Verma, because some of those questions are also directed at the centre. Sanju Verma. You have muted your device. If you could unmute that and continue, Sanju Verma.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I said, I completely take on board Ashok Pandit's concerns, and, obviously questions have been raised of the Supreme Court. Having said all this, I think at this point in time, does the executive, does the Modi government need to step in? Should there be an SIT probing the genocide dating back to 32 years ago? Certainly yes. At the same time, Madhav, I also want to say that be it reopening the Nadimar files, be it the fact that today you have a Yasin Malik who's cooling his heels in the jail. He has been slapped with charges under section 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20 of the UAPA, 124A charges under sedition, 120B criminal conspiracy. This is the same Yasin Malik who was given a Jadoo ki Jhappi by ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in his Prime Ministerial chamber in 2006. So things have certainly changed and changed for the better.
No, they may have changed.
Ashok Pandit said.
They may have changed.
Just 20 seconds. Please let me finish.
No, but I have a question for you. Why no commission for 3 years, Sanju Verma? Why no commission for 3 years? It's a fairly substantial period of time.
Madhav, 20 seconds. Madhav, I think, one very important thing which your audience needs to know is that today is the first death anniversary of Syed Shah Gilani. And as Ashok Pandit said, in any other circumstances, Kashmir would have been burning. But today schools were open, colleges were open, universities were open, businesses were open, life went on as usual.
But you haven't answered my question still.
Kashmir.
No, I'm
Kashmir for you.
That's fine, and I'm not going to get into a debate on that. But point is very simple. 3 years is a long time, Sanju Verma. Surely within these 3 years, with a central rule in Jammu and Kashmir, at least that commission of inquiry, which you yourself have supported, could have been ordered.
The commission of inquiry, why it has not been ordered, that is a question, which merits a discussion. But I think I would be jumping the gun to say something which I'm not completely in the know of. All I can assure is the fact that genocide enablers, genocide perpetrators and genocide...
But this is an important promise.
...dealt a body blow.
This is an important promise.
I ask you one thing.
Yes.
Madhav, you have Majid Haidri here. You ask questions of BJP, you should. You ask questions of Farooq Abdullah, you should. You ask questions of Mufti, you should. But why is it that we are not asking questions of radicalized elements who refuse to believe that global jihad is the epicenter of what happened in Kashmir?
All right.
What is Majid Haidi's
Undoubtedly. And I wanted to, let's take that question to Vakar Bhati. Vakar Bhati, it's not just the fact that jihadis were responsible for all of this, but what is also very shocking is Farooq Abdullah ने अपने regime में क्या किया था इस तरह के टेररिस्ट के बारे में. फारूक अब्दुल्ला ने जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे तब हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन जनवरी 4, 1990 में उन्होंने वार्निंग्स कैरी किया था कि अगर आप नहीं जाएंगे आपके बच्चों से शुरुआत करेंगे. फारूक अब्दुल्ला ने 1989 के जुलाई और दिसंबर के बीच में 70 हार्डकोर टेररिस्ट को रिलीज किया था. क्या फारूक अब्दुल्ला उस समय के जो नेता हैं उन्होंने कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट नहीं किया इस जेनोसाइड में?
आप देर से आए, चलो पूरा सुनेंगे आप. सर, टीवी पे बात करना और जमीन पे लड़ाई करना दो तरह का फर्क होता है. हम कल से दिल्ली जंतर मंतर पे हैं, अभी पुलिस ने हमें उठा दिया कुछ देर पहले. वहां एक बैनर लगाया हुआ पोस्टर, आपके मीडिया ने कवर नहीं किया, बाकी लोकल मीडिया ने कवर किया यहाँ दिल्ली में. तो वहाँ एक बैनर लगाया हुआ जिसमें राहुल भट्ट को जो मारा गया सिद्धार्थ ऑफिस में, तो उसकी भी हमने तस्वीर लगाई हुई है. हमने रजौरी के शपैन में जिन 3 बच्चों को आर्मी ने इनकाउंटर किया था, फेक इनकाउंटर, उनकी भी हमने तस्वीर लगाई हुई है. हमने सिख टीचर जो बहन मारी गई उसकी भी हमने तस्वीर लगाई हुई है. तो हमने क्या मांगा है? आज भारत के अवाम से हम और हमारे कश्मीर के काफी एक्टिविस्ट आए और वहां आके ये मांगने लगे दिल्ली में कि बताइए हमारा कसूर क्या है? मुस्लिम मरे, हिंदू मरे, सिख मरे, मरदा तो कश्मीरी है ना, जाने हमारी जाती है. आपने बात की फारूक अब्दुल्ला की, मुझे क्या करना है फारूक अब्दुल्ला से? आप अमित शाह साहब से सवाल पूछिए ना कि आपके अमित शाह होम मिनिस्टर ने ये बोला था.
सर, जो उस वक्त के नेता है, अगर अकाउंटेबिलिटी वहां से फिक्स नहीं शुरू करेंगे तो कहां अंत होगा इसका? कहां से शुरुआत होगा? कहां जस्टिस मिल सकता है?
सर स्पीच कर रहा हूँ. अमित शाह साहब ने कहा था कि मैं 370 को इसलिए खत्म कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि परिवारों ने लूट लिया कश्मीर को. तो परिवार तो आज भी इनके साथ बिरयानी खा रहे हैं, कोई चाय पी रहा है.
Ashok Pandit, for the people of Kashmir, it doesn't matter who the politician is. People of both religions have lost their lives. That's the statement coming in from Vakar Bhati. Please respond to him, Ashok Pandit.
अशोक पंडित जैसे लोगों को क्यों रुलाते हो सर?
एक सेकंड मिस्टर भाटी, आपने सवाल उठाया, जवाब भी सुन लीजिए.
कश्मीर में क्या मैं इनसे पास करना ही नहीं चाहता सर, ये नथिंग.
No, please, Mr. Bhati, he can say you're nothing. Let's not make personal comments. Ashok Pandit, 1 second. Mr. Bhati, please. Mr. Bhati, please, you went the point, now listen to the response.
बैठिए, दीजिए रिस्पॉन्स दीजिए.
Ashok Pandit. You see, I used a word called insensitive. They are all actors on the stage who are performing to deviate the minds and attention of people from the real perpetrators of the crime. So they are running their shops here, you know, that मैंने इसकी फोटो लगा दी, मैंने इसकी फोटो लगा दी, इन्होंने म्यूजियम खोल के रखा हुआ है. हकीकत यही है ना माधव कि ये लोग जो हमारे पड़ोसी थे कश्मीर में, जो पॉलिटिक्स वहां खेलते थे, उन्होंने ही जहाज वहां शुरू किया, उन्होंने ही मिलिटेंट्स को पैदा किया, उन्होंने ही वहां पर गन कल्चर लाया, उन्होंने ही हमें मारा, उन्होंने ही हमारा बलात्कार किया, उन्होंने ही हमें निकाला, उन्होंने ही हमारे घर जलाए, उन्होंने ही हमारी स्कूल जलाए, उन्होंने हमारे कॉलेजेस जलाए. इन लोगों ने किया ना, इन्होंने पूरी कोशिश करके हमें वहां से निकाला, इन्होंने रलीफ गलीम सलीम का स्टेटमेंट इशू किया, मस्जिदों से आवाज निकाली, मस्जिदों के स्पीकर का इस्तेमाल किया, इन्होंने हमें निकाला ना. तो इसकी तो पहचान होनी चाहिए, इसकी तो इंक्वायरी होनी चाहिए कि कौन लोग ये लोग थे, कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल था हमारे जेनोसाइड का, हमारे एथनिक क्लीनिंग का. ये कब तक बच के जाएंगे, ये कब तक बच के जाएंगे और कब तक बचेंगे?
Well, absolutely. In fact, there are some very, very disturbing questions. There are no easy answers when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir, but this is one vexed problem. Justice has eluded Kashmiri Pandits for decades. They are demanding answers. They are demanding justice. Will the centre now step in after the court has specifically asked the petitioners to approach the centre? What will happen? The ball is firmly in the centre's court. We'll only know in coming days. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us this evening. And with us, of course, was Ashok Pandit, Sanju Verma, Majid Hydari, Ahmed Ayaz, and Vakar Bhati. Thank you so much for joining us on debate number 1. After 6 days of public outrage and protest, the Murugha Mutt Seer was finally arrested late last night, raising hopes that perhaps the prosecution is finally picking pace. But that was apparently not to be. Barely hours after being apprehended, the Seer was taken to the government hospital from Chitradurga district jail as he complained of chest pain, where he was later admitted in the ICU ward as well. Now, when the doctor suspected he was suffering from some kind of heart problems at that time, now several activists have labelled it as a sham arrest and questioned whether the hospital episode is part of a larger script to evade the law.
The whole nation was rejoicing yesterday because the Swami was at last supposedly arrested, but not for more than 4 hours. Immediately, he had all kinds of ailments, from COVID after effects to chest pain to whatever pains. This is the disease that only influential, powerful perpetrators can claim. They are mocking the citizens, the state machinery of this great country. He was happily addressing everybody, talking about his innocence. But now, when he has been remanded to judicial custody, he makes all of this drama. What a shame it is.
Okay, at the outset, we welcome the arrest. But all of a sudden he developed chest pain. Okay, a human being may develop that kind of ill health or anything like that. Let him undergo checkup. Let him given the proper treatment. If at all it is a drama, just to avoid the staying at jail because he is under judicial custody, we oppose it. So, shifting him to Bangalore, is it really required?
However, the court denied the hospital comfort sought by the Seer while sending him to 4 days of police custody, instructing that he is to be hospitalized only when his condition is serious. Meanwhile, amidst accusations of the state going soft in the case, the Karnataka Home Minister has assured that there was no political interference and that the police was doing its job.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಮೊದಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಕಾನೂನು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತನಾಡುವುದು ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮುಕ್ತವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇವೆ, ಆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾವುದೇ ವ್ಯಾಖ್ಯಾನ ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And for more on the story, we are joined by a guest. With us is Pramila Nesargi, lawyer and activist. Navid Saxena is an advocate on record of the Supreme Court. With us also is Naveen Chumar, lawyer. Abha Singh is also an advocate joining us on the panel, as is Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate. Let me start with Pramila Nesargi. Pramila Nesargi, now you have very spiritedly defended the position taken by the legal counsels and that of the Seer. But today the court had some very pertinent questions. Amidst, of course, the court saying that the police firstly did not inform the court as far as the ill health and the fact that the Seer was taken to hospital after his arrest last night. They also have further questioned the police about, if he is unwell, why do they even need his custody in the police for interrogation purposes, after which the police sought some time and then went back to the court. So doesn't this really show that as far as the police is concerned as well, there is so much of soft trading in this case?
They are doing excess, they are not doing the job properly. You see, according to the magistrate, echoing.
Okay, we'll just fix that echo. Ma'am.
No, it's echo.
Yeah, we'll just try to fix that. I apologize. If you could continue, please.
Please. See, the magistrate asked the police, why you have not informed before taking to the hospital? See how.
All right, we'll just fix that echo, ma'am. I'll just come back to you in a minute.
According to the, if they have taken the, yes sir, I feel uneasy to.
All right, we'll just come back to you. Naveen Chomal, does this not show the police has been caught on the wrong foot, because clearly they are soft peddling in this case, because it's not us, it's not the media, it's not any activist, it's the fact that the court itself is asking these very pertinent questions. Naveen Chomal.
Definitely. In fact, though I am been supporting the non-arrest of the Seer, but today this particular step, the police was definitely caught on the wrong foot. Ideally, if the police found that the Seer is complaining of the ill health, they ought to have first taken him to the doctor, and whatever the doctor would have opined, whether he is fine or not, and then they could have approached the court with the seer. Because you see, Madhav, they have 24 hours of time before producing before the honorable court, and since the arrest was effected yesterday late in the night, so they had more than ample time in the day. So they could have given him whatever treatment he required, and had the doctor opined immediately that now he is fine, they could have brought him before the court subsequently also. So definitely the police have gone somewhere wrong over there, but we cannot attribute anything what is a malified in it. Maybe at times police do commit mistakes. Even in our vast experience as lawyer, we find these mistakes happening in ordinary cases also. So let's not read too much in it.
Okay, we are reading too much. Sanjay Hegde, are we really reading too much, or is this part of a larger pattern? What's your view?
Well, we will have to guess estimate as to what exactly happened. I remember on your channel it was being said that even before the arrest there was a doctor at the Mutt. He was medically examined before he was arrested. Obviously after he is arrested also there is going to be a medical examination. But then if there are sudden chest pains, I think the only thing that can conclusively say anything would be an ECG. An ECG would obviously have been done, but well, if the police are under some instructions to treat him with more than kid gloves, say that okay, the person is complaining of chest pain, we can't rule out a heart condition, and we don't know whether it is all gas either.
Right.
So therefore, for safety's sake, let's put him in a hospital and let the court take a call on it. So the court obviously had its curiosity aroused, and it asked the right questions.
Right.
If he has been examined twice, and at that stage there was nothing, then obviously once you get into custody there is a certain amount of anxiety. But
all right, but does that justify this kind of a brouhaha around him being sent to ICU, so on and so forth? I think that's perhaps a pertinent question. Prabla Nesargi, is it just a simple coincidence that it is after he is arrested and several hours after he is arrested that suddenly there is a suspicion that he may have a myocardial infarction, and therefore the doctors say that he may have to go into the ICU because for 5 days he's been in the Mutt, there have been no health problems reported. Is it just a mere coincidence?
I am not answerable. It is for the doctor to answer. Condition can be said. You see, all that I know is from the media that his oxygen level is 94. Normal level is 98, 94. He had the variations in the ECG. They suspected, can I and you say he did not have variations? He did not know. They wanted to say that after examining, they wanted to take a call. Nothing wrong in it. If he is all right, as the magistrate called upon them to produce, he went there, he was appeared there, and he has been taken to police custody 4 days.
But ma'am, after he is sent to a hospital, the court orders him, and suddenly he is okay to be in police custody. How does that happen?
No one has said it.
No, Pramilaji, in the morning he was said to be admitted in hospital. There was even talk that by chopper he may be brought to Jayadeva Hospital, Bengaluru. Now suddenly after the court orders come post 3 o'clock, suddenly he is back in police custody, and there is no need for him to be in hospital. What changes?
Sorry. Please, I am sorry, that was not the case. See, they wanted to get some person, they had some doubts. So they wanted an opinion from doctors from Davanagere, not from Bangalore. Davanagere doctor, few miles away from 40 kilometers. They were waiting only for their opinion. Who has said that they wanted to take him? No one has advised him to take him to Bangalore. And the one person was nothing of this sort. See, look at the photographs. Look at your all videographs. How the Swamiji was pushed. How he was pulled on either side. Police were taking him. Was he objecting to it? Have you ever seen him objecting it? How he has been behaving? See his behavior. Nothing. Normal course. They pushed him, taken him. ECG.
So are you alleging he was manhandled?
Checking they wanted.
You are alleging the police manhandled him?
At any point of time.
What is the allegation, ma'am?
He was manhandled.
Oh, he was manhandled.
You see the photographs. I've been watching. He was pushed from the right and left. he was manhandled.
Let me bring in Mr. G.V. Patil on those 2 points. Mr. G.V. Patil, one second. Mr. G.V. Patil,
he did not object.
Okay, Pramila Nisargi, you made two very pertinent points. Let me bring in Mr. G.V. Patil. Mr. G.V. Patil, first of all, Pramila Nisargi believes that he was manhandled. Number two, of course, is mystery of how the doctors came in, the ICU came in, the myocardial infarction came in, and then suddenly he was again taken into police custody post-lunch. That's something that many are raising a question as to whether, it is at the end of the day, Chitradurga, a small town, where this is a person who has a tremendous sway. And the very fears as to why he was not detained for 6 days once again are coming to the fore, even after his arrest last night. What is your opinion, Mr. Patil?
No, it is not new to India. It is happening everywhere. Not only in Karnataka, it's happening in all over India. All these rich people will never face the troubles of this jail. They will see some via media, and suddenly they will get this chest pain and all that. Normally it is happening, but I am reading in a different way. जो इज्जत तो चला गया उसका, अभी जो इज्जत इतना दिन मेंटेन किया था उतना वो तो चला गया. अभी तो वो फिजिकल कंफर्ट एंड फिजिकल डिस्कम्फर्ट वो एक चीज है. Whether he is getting the physical comfort or not much importance to the whole world. Very important is that he has been behind the bar. He is under the police custody. He is under the investigation. And I think that's more than sufficient for anybody. Anyway, he should have thought what is the ordeal of that girl. They have faced some 3-4 years, and they also must have faced some 2-3 months. How they have faced and what would have been their physical and mental.
Absolutely. I don't think that is even a question. I think because today those two girls stand vindicated. The two brave girls who came out to actually complain at great risk, at risk of everything. For instance, social ostracization. Anything can happen in India. Physical attacks, mental well-being. All of that is at risk when two minors come out in this manner and take on a powerful seer. And that's why I want to ask Navit Saxena a very pertinent question. Navit Saxena, just a few months back when we saw that TMC's Partha Chatterjee was hospitalized post his arrest, the opposition there, which incidentally is the BJP, which is the ruling party in Karnataka, took a dig and said that a number of taunts were made at Partha Chatterjee and his hospitalization. Shouldn't the same yardstick apply over here in a state where the BJP rules?
See, I'll tell you, whenever an accused is detained or arrested, he has to be produced within 24 hours before the magistrate. Now, as a matter of law, before producing that particular accused before the magistrate, the police is duty bound to conduct a medical checkup, and after corona they have to conduct a corona checkup also, and other communicable diseases, because if he has to be lodged in jail, then there should not be spreading of infections, etc. In this case also the police did the same. Now, after he was sent into police custody, perhaps he again felt something, that there is a heart pain or something. So for an abundant caution, see, if the accused is not well, what and who will you investigate? So this is in a routine manner. This happens across the board, irrespective of whether the accused is rich or not. If the accused is not well, if the accused is old, these medical examinations take place. And if the accused is complaining of chest pain, that can be due to multiple reasons. So the police is duty bound to take medical help or assistance.
Is it also duty bound to not inform the court, sir?
Which has been done.
Is it also duty bound to not inform the court, as the court pointed out today?
No, he is in police custody right now. Police has to take whatever steps they have to take. Informing. Now
so the court was wrong to question the Chitradurga police.
4 days police custody. He is not in judicial custody.
Sir, you are a lawyer. Are you saying that the court was wrong to question the police?
No, it is. No. Not at all. Court is well within its power to question the investigating agencies and to see whether a proper investigation is being done or not. Court is not wrong in it at all. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that the investigating agency, for abundant caution, has to take care of medical treatment and medical assistance.
All right. I want Abba Singh to come in on this.
They've done.
I want Abba Singh to come in on this. Abba Singh, there are those, there are critics and there are critics. The point is that there are many people who, you would have seen the comments on social media, activists who come and say that this entire investigation has been, a sham from day one. They've been token, lookout notices that have been put 5 days after the FIR was filed. The arrest didn't take place, leave alone arrest. There was no interrogation, there was no investigation for 5 days as far as the prime accused is concerned. Now, even after the arrest, there's been so much in terms of, going to hospital, so on and so forth. So there are many who are saying that all of this is nothing but an excuse to scuttle the probe. Where do you stand on this, Abba Singh?
Absolutely. My first question is, did he have a history of heart problem? Was he, or it's just a put on? Because 5 days the police did not arrest him. Now he doesn't want to be interrogated. Lot of times it happens that these politically powerful people, corporates, they feign heart problems. So, and now even we are discussing his health problem rather than the offense which he has committed. So, it's very nice way of deflecting all the attention of coming onto his health. I have no faith in the police there because 5 days they did not arrest him. Only when there was a public outcry, when television channels went ballistic, only then they have arrested. And that too, you have Congress, BJP, everybody coming in his support saying he's a good leader, he does social work, he's a good man. So end of the day, why are we trying to protect and put him on a big pedestal? Here's a person who has raped 2 minor girls, sexually assaulted them, because the FIR is there. There are facts. Yeah. These girls have given their statement in front of the magistrate. So I am very clear. Today he is a criminal.
You say Alid, you can't say that he is raped.
For 5 days you ensured that he was not arrested. For 5 days you tried to protect him. After 5 days he has been arrested. That means police has done the investigation. They have investigated, they have found sufficient evidence. They did not arrest him immediately.
Alright, he is charged with rape, ma'am. He is charged with a heinous crime of rape under POCSO. Prabla Nesargi.
Arresting him means that there cannot be any smoke without fire.
No, Prabla Nesargi, he is charged with a very heinous crime. You are right. To the extent that it is an alleged crime at the moment, he has to be convicted before one calls him a rapist. No doubt about that. But the charges are extremely serious.
If you say he has arrested without inquiry, without being convicted, law says he is innocent till he is proved. Have you proved? Have you proved? Where is the proof?
Pramila Nesargi, after the FIR, they have not arrested him right away. 5 days they have waited, investigated, collect investigation. They have tried to collect evidence. Why 5 days? They could have refused to arrest him. They could have said that the complaints are wrong. What stopped the police from saying that they are false allegations? They could have said that and closed the case. They have arrested because they found sufficient evidence. Because 5 days is a long time. The police, had it been any common man with such grave charges, he would have been arrested the same day. You and I know it very well. But giving him 5 days, and after 5 days they have been compelled to arrest him. Otherwise, had it been for the local police, they were totally compromised.
But local police were totally compromised. Okay.
Mutt case. Swamiji was the same thing. He was not arrested.
Ma'am, what about the case of Asaram? What is the case of Guru Rampal? What about the case of Ram Rahim? There are multiple godmen. Who have been arrested, madam.
He was trying to plead.
No, let's not.
There was a lookout circular for him.
Don't compare Asaram to our Swamiji. Don't compare.
Why not, ma'am?
Don't compare those people to.
The activist here, the activist Parshuram, Ordinary Parshuram says there are more cases left. There are more cases, there are more complainants. Let them come to the fore, ma'am. Let everybody come out and make their voice heard.
Yes, yes.
Everybody has the right to legal redressal, surely.
He is one accused in this case. He is the one who was manipulated. He is the one who was manipulated. He is the one who has concocted. He is the one.
Okay. Sanjay Hegde. Sanjay Hegde, quick comments. We're almost out of time. The NGO is the actual accused, says Prabla Nesargi. Now after this arrest, when the NGO person who was pivotal in actually bringing this case to the fore, is accused as being the conspirator by Prabla Nesargi, is there anything you'd like to say to her in return?
No, he is an accused. He is alleged to have committed vices with minors, and he is not entitled to any sympathy. What interested me in what Pramila said was, that a similarly placed Swamiji of the Ramchandra Mutt was not arrested. Yes, that is also a complaint of many people, that there are similar allegations against another major Mutt. That gentleman was not arrested, and consequently that led to this furor in this particular case.
Okay.
Two wrongs definitely do not make a right.
All right, completely out of time. Sorry, Sanjay Hegde, completely out of time. Two wrongs definitely don't make a right. That's the statement coming out of it. I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us. D.B. Patil, Praminal Sargi, Namit Saxena, Naveen Chomal, Abha Singh and Sanjay Hegde. Certainly, will justice be done in this case? The police in Chitradurga are under a spotlight. The whole country is watching them to see if justice is done in this case or not. And any slip up by the police is certainly going to be highlighted. That's something that we as the media can certainly assure and ensure that justice is done and taken to its logical conclusion in this case. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
The News Hour at 10. The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break. The News Hour at 10.
Welcome to this Times Now special broadcast. In today's episode of Inside Karnataka, we discuss about the upcoming BBMP election. What do these polls mean for the citizens of Silicon City? What's at stake for the political parties? We give you all these details and much more in the next half an hour of this special broadcast.
Bengaluru, the capital city of Karnataka, has a robust culture of civic activism. It's also an IT hub and in many ways a symbol of the vast strides India has made in the last few decades in the field of technology. It's a cosmopolitan city attracting talent from all parts of the country, a huge recipient of foreign investment, and a place that also stands out for its pleasant weather and greenery. But there are serious questions to be asked of the city's civic governance. Is Bengaluru's infrastructure really commensurate with its status as an international city? What of those tasked with the responsibility of ensuring an efficient municipal administration? Why is it that Bengaluru continues to be afflicted by serious civic apathy, not on the part of its citizens, but its administrators?
When it comes to the BBMP elections, and of course with the elections around the corner, we definitely have to talk about politics, and we have. But what are the core issues that plague the BBMP? What are the problems that the Bangaloreans really want addressed? To talk more about this, I have two prominent Bengalurians here with me. Srinivas, who's a very prominent civic activist from Bengaluru with Janagra at the moment. Also Ian Faria, life coach, and also a very popular face in the city. Thank you to both of you all for joining us on this special broadcast. Firstly to you, Srinivas, what are the biggest issues that plague the BBMP and Bengaluru?
Deepak, the depends on who you ask. Bengaluru now has 1.4 crore population. Our own Janagraha survey shows that water, for example, is a big issue for the poor, whereas water is not at all issue for the rich. Footpaths are a common issue across rich, poor, men, women, age group, younger, older people. Traffic, everyone thinks traffic is a big problem, but only for the rich people. Not so much for the lower middle class and the poor people. Traffic doesn't feature as a big issue. The development of Bengaluru has become unequal. We found out that 97% of people know the name of the Prime Minister. 89% could name the Chief Minister. Not even 13% could name the last mayor of Bengaluru. So that reflects the overall understanding citizens have about city governance itself, the third tier of governance. So their lack of understanding that such a thing exists translate into lack of participation in the elections itself. So if we create more awareness that BBMP is not some agency that does some work, but we actually have an elected representative there.
So has brand Bengaluru been affected? While we have these sort of fancy roads coming up and all of that, but the traffic is a perennial problem. Potholes is still leading to loss of lives.
I think Bangalore is definitely affected, and in a major way. And what I find is, see, unless we choose good leaders, all of us can have the best of ideas, but somebody has to give the instruction to get the idea enacted, right? But we need to go and click the button there for the electorate. I think that's a civic responsibility all of us should have. And I don't think we have it. Like he was quoting just now, 40-50% electorate coming to vote, that's really pathetic. We need to make a noise. We need to go out there and be noticed. But if we want to just make phone calls and say the phone is busy all the time, it's not going to cut it. So get out there, show your face, stop using social media for everything. Everything is not solved on social media or messages to PM.
The Brihat Bengaluru Mahanagarapalikate is an elected body, but the council elections have not been held for a year, and there have been reasons for this.
The Garden City of Bengaluru, or the Silicon City of Bengaluru, however you may call it, has changed quite a bit in the last few years. We've seen the city grow in terms of population and also in terms of size, and with it, the issues plaguing the city especially have increased quite a bit and changed dramatically. Now, up until now, there have been 198 wards where the BBMP elections have been contested. This time, however, there are multiple changes that we are going to see in how the elections are going to be fought. Firstly, there's going to be 243 seats up for grabs. Then, of course, comes the issue of the delimitation, where the wards have been reshaped, and some of them say that it's going to favor some political parties and some of them stand at a disadvantage. Also, the reservation factor is something that's going to be keenly looked at when these elections are fought. So with all of these dynamics involved, which party stands to gain and which stands to lose? Well, take a look for yourselves. The delimitation exercise, this is something that, many Congress leaders in the past, including you, have raised and said that it's going to be a massive disadvantage for, the opposition in particular. Could you explain to our viewers, how do you think this is an, exercise that is going to not benefit you or rather benefit the BJP?
So, it's not about whether it benefits the opposition or the Congress party or not. It is about whether it will benefit the city as a whole. Okay. So our problem is not only with the delimitation exercise, our problem was with the act itself, the way the act is formulated. With a 243 member council, we feel that the 198 member council itself was a burden on the city. Such a large city with such a huge organization like BBMP cannot solve and take care of Bangalore's problem. Bangalore is very complex and dynamic, so we actually wanted it to be scientifically done. So the BJP lost an opportunity by bringing an act, a new act, which doesn't help the Bangalore city, one. And according to that act, they have done the delimitation. With this structure of BBMP, this is a burden rather than a relief for the people of Bangalore.
Okay. The Supertech Twin Towers in Noida that had the entire country hooked were finally demolished at 2:30 p.m. on 28th August after a directive from the Supreme Court. The story of Supertech Twin Towers exploding into a heap of rubble in a posh Noida locality merits attention, as it is a symbol of the triumph of ordinary middle class's fight against the largely corrupt builder lobby. It is hoped that the explosion also leads to an implosion of the corrupt system from within, serving a reminder to unscrupulous builders that the towers of corruption can be brought down like a pack of cards.
Good evening. Your Nation wants to know. I'm Madhavdas Gopalakrishnan. First, a quick look at the top 50 stories this hour. In a mega display of India's naval might, Prime Minister Modi commissioned INS Vikrant in a grand ceremony at the Kochi shipyard. Equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, INS Vikrant can accommodate around 1,600 crew members and 30 aircraft on board. Prime Minister Modi has called INS Vikrant special, said it's not a mere warship but proof of India's hard work, skill and talent. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that INS Vikrant is an exceptional symbol of a self-reliant and aspirational India. UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also congratulated on the commissioning of the INS Vikrant, said it shows the potential of a self-reliant India. Meanwhile, the Congress has hit out at Prime Minister Modi, said that INS Vikrant was commissioned today, but it is a collective effort of all governments since 1999. Prime Minister also unveiled the new naval ensign or the Nishan that is inspired by the great
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News Now Overnight, where we get you all the news in its long and short format. First up, top 40. In a mega display of India's naval might, Prime Minister Narendra Modi commissioned INS Vikrant in a grand ceremony at Kochi shipyard. Equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, INS Vikrant can accommodate around 1,600 crew members and 30 aircraft on board. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called INS Vikrant special. He said it is not a mere warship but a proof of India's hard work, skill and talent. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said INS Vikrant is an exceptional symbol of self-reliance and aspirational India. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath also congratulated on the commissioning of INS Vikrant. He said it shows the potential of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Meanwhile, Congress has hit out at Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saying that INS Vikrant commissioned today is a collective effort of all the governments since 1999. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also unveiled the new naval ensign or Nishan that is inspired by great Maratha Emperor Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In a latest development, Murugha Mutt Seer has been sent to 4 days police custody. Earlier, just hours after his arrest, POCSO accused Seer got out of jail after complaints of chest pain. He was then moved to an ICU. The doctor said that reports suggested that the Seer had some sort of heart complications and would have required further treatment. Karnataka police have also arrested Murugha Mutt warden Rashmi in connection with sexual assault case. Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai has refused to comment on the arrest. He said everything is happening according to law. Supreme Court has granted interim bail to Teesta Seetalwar after she was in custody for over 60 days. Enforcement Directorate has questioned TMC MP and Mamata Banerjee's nephew Abhishek Banerjee in connection with ongoing alleged coal scam. Following Abhishek Banerjee's visit to ED offices, TMC claimed central agencies were biased when BJP leaders were under CBI radar. Madras High Court has delivered a verdict in favor of E. Palanisamy on the conduct of a July 11 General Council meeting of AIADMK. EPS has welcomed Madras High Court's order, calling it a historic judgment. OPS has reacted to Madras High Court's order. He said they will be challenging it in the Supreme Court. The SC has refused to entertain a plea seeking a probe by a special investigation team into the targeted killings of Kashmiri Pandits and Sikhs in Kashmir in the 1990s. Another non-local labourer was attacked in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district. The labourer sustained gunshot wounds. Hunt is on for terrorists. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched 3,800 crore rupee worth infrastructure projects in pole-bound state of Karnataka today. Congress will be holding Halla Bol rally over rising inflation at Delhi's Ram Leela ground on the 4th of September. As claimed by the Congress, over 35,000 people have registered to join its Bharat Jodo Yatra that is going to start from September 7. A Samajwadi Party delegation today met Shrikant Tyagi's wife Anu Tyagi. They will be submitting a report to Akhilesh Yadav after the visit. Shrikant Tyagi was the same person who was arrested for abusing and assaulting a woman in a Noida residential society. Session Court has rejected the bail plea of Noida's abusive neta Shrikant Tyagi in the Gangster Act case. Kalyan Chaubey has become the new president of All India Football Federation, beating Bhaichung Bhutia by a margin of 33:1 votes. New AIFF president said he will welcome Bhaichung Bhutia in the AIFF to contribute. Aspirants staged massive protest against the state government as Bihar TET exam has not been conducted since 2017. Vinod Argile, the man who was caught on camera beating and abusing an elderly woman in Mumbai, was expelled from his post in the MNS after his arrest for the case. A man who impersonated his neighbor to put out a Facebook post announcing a bounty against Chief Minister Yogi has been arrested in Muradabad. Congress MP Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary has written to Prime Minister requesting a land port in Murshidabad and the Rajshahi in Bangladesh. There's no end to trouble for Congress. As per sources, two senior leaders are expected to quit the party and join BJP anytime soon. A Muslim youth in Bagpat allegedly threatened to sever the heads of a Hindu family if they did not hand over their daughter to him. Accused has now been arrested. Following UP government's decision to conduct a survey of illegal and unregistered madrasas, BJP Minister Giriraj Singh has said that he wants a similar exercise in Bihar. AIMIM Chief Asaduddin Owaisi has slammed Himanta Biswa Sarma over madrasa demolition. He alleges that only 12-hour notice was given to the owners of the madrasa that was demolished. Aam Aadmi Party Chief Arvind Kejriwal will be going on a two-day Haryana tour starting September 7th. He will be holding a rally in Adhampur. The Supreme Court has rejected a PIL seeking declaration to make Sanskrit the national language of India. Mass death of birds has been reported after trees were chopped in Kerala for national highway expansion. People in flood-affected village in Bhagalpur district of Bihar readied a makeshift boat to carry a patient to a hospital. India has reported over 8,500 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. The current recovery rate stands at 98.59%. Pranoy went down fighting the badminton men's singles quarterfinals against World Championship bronze medalist Shen of Chinese Taipei at the Japan Open. Lakshman Narasimhan becomes the new Starbucks CEO. He is the latest entrant to the expanding list of Indian origin CEOs of top global firms. The Japanese yen fell to 140 per US dollar for the first time since 1998 amidst concerns over interest rate gap between Japan and USA. Planes carrying fresh supplies are forming a humanitarian air bridge to flood-ravaged Pakistan as the death toll crosses 1,200. Lufthansa airline has cancelled 800 flights globally due to a strike by its pilots, resulting in around 700 passengers being stranded at the Delhi airport. A blast outside a mosque in the city of Viraat in western Afghanistan has killed a high-profile pro-Taliban cleric and 17 civilians. Argentinian Vice President Cristina Fernandez narrowly avoided assassination attempt after a gunman's weapon jammed as he took a shot at her. A small amount of heavy fuel oil leaked from a bulk carrier ship stranded since colliding Monday with another ship near the Bay of Gibraltar. Russia and China participate in a week-long Vostok 22 drills in the Sea of Japan amidst ongoing tensions with the United States. More than 30 children in the United States have tested positive for monkeypox virus. This after first death from this virus was reported in the country. And there is yet another breeding ground of controversy. This time it is not Karnataka but Maharashtra, where two factions of Shiv Sena are all set for yet another showdown. This time the turf war will play out at Shivaji Park. Mumbai civic body, the BMC, has confirmed that it has received applications from both the Uddhav Thackeray as well as Eknath Shinde factions of the Shiv Sena to book the sprawling ground for a Dussehra rally in October. This rally is a political, cultural and religious event of quite significance for Shiv Sena, possibly the most important event in its political calendar. It has been taking place for several decades now, ever since Shiv Sena's inception took place in 1966. But this time around, Shivaji Park has two claimants after split in the ranks following a rebellion by Eknath Shinde.
Behind me is the iconic Shivaji Park at Dadar. This is the place where annually every year the Shiv Sena holds its Dussehra Medava, also called as the Dussehra Rally. Now there is a tug of war brewing between the Uddhav Thackeray camp and the CM Shinde camp, who will be able to hold the Dussehra Rally of the Shiv Sena at this iconic Shivaji Park in Dadar. With me is MLA Sada Sarvankar. He is from the CM Shinde camp. He is also the local MLA of Shivaji Park, basically from Mahim to Dadar constituency. आप आज गए थे BMC में बेसिकली ये प्रस्ताव देने के लिए कि CM शिंदे कैंप को यहाँ पर दशहरा मेड़ावा होल्ड करना है. वहाँ पर उद्धव ठाकरे ने चैलेंज दिया है कि हमें रोक के दिखाए. कैसा देखिए?
करीबन पिछले 15-20 साल से मैं ही दशहरा मेला के लिए परमिशन के लिए BMC में अर्जी दाखिल करता था. हर साल के तरह ये बार भी मैंने किया है. आदित्य साहब ने कभी देखा भी नहीं था कि अर्जी कैसा होता है, कैसा किया जाता है. पिछले 10-15 साल से मैं ही अर्जी MLA और विभाग प्रमुख करके करता था और ये परमिशन लेके आता था. आदित्य साहब कभी देखते नहीं थे ये बारे में, ज़रूर उद्धव साहब देखते थे. लेकिन ये बार भी हमने गुट के तरफ से नहीं तो शिवसेना के ही तरफ से एक हिंदुत्व के जो विचार है, जो बाला साहब सालों साल यहाँ देते आए और हम लोग मराठी में जिसको सीमोल्लंघन कहते हैं, वो सीमोल्लंघन दसरा के दिन ही होता था और वो करने के लिए हमने अर्जी दी है. वो जी नॉर्थ में दिया है, वैसा मैं कमिश्नर के पास भी दिया है. ये शिवाजी पार्क बात करने की जगह नहीं, विचार मांडने की जगह है और यहाँ हिंदुत्व के विचार दिए जाते थे जो बाला साहब देते थे और वो सुनने के लिए लाखों लोग महाराष्ट्र से देश भर से आते थे. हम लोग भी यहाँ के घंटों घंटा बैठ के साहब का भाषण सुनते थे. हम यही चाहते आज भी कि वही हिंदुत्व के विचार, वही बाला साहब के विचार दसरा मेले से मेले में सीमोल्लंघन करके सुनाने की ज़रूरत है या सुनने की ज़रूरत है और वो शिंदे साहब ही सुनाएंगे, ऐसा हमें लग रहा है. तो हम कोई गुट के है नहीं, हम लोग शिवसेना करके ही है. बाला साहब के जो विचार है वही विचार आगे लेके जाते हैं.
Now, this comes after Uddhav Thackeray had said that his party would hold the Dussehra rally at Shivaji Park, as has been the norm for decades, while his son and former Minister Aditya Thackeray had alleged that the party's application for a nod for their rally was facing hurdles from authorities.
संभ्रम बिमरम कोणाचा नाहीये. नाही तो शिवसेनेचा म्हणजे आमचाच होणार, शिवसेनेचाच होणार. संभ्रम निर्माण करणाऱ्यांनी संभ्रम निर्माण करू द्या, पण शिवसैनिकांनी महाराष्ट्राच्या कानाकोपऱ्यातून दसऱ्याला शिवतीर्थावरती येण्याची तयारी सुरू केलेली आहे. मला नाही तो तांत्रिक मांत्रिक भाग काय असेल तो त्यांचं ते बघतील, पण शिवसेनेचा मेळावा हा दसऱ्याला होणार, शिवतीर्थावरतीच होणार.
अर्जी हम देने जा रहे हैं लेकिन वहाँ कोई उसका स्वीकार नहीं कर रहा है, और यही मैं कह रहा हूँ कि ये सरकार दड़पशाही की सरकार बन रही जा रही है, खोखी सरकार है.
Arunil now joins us on the phone line. Arunil, the most crucial decision now lies with the BMC. Have we heard anything from them as to when are they going to decide, if they haven't done so already, as to whose application is going to be approved?
Really, the BMC, which has been ruled by Uddhav Thackeray Shivsena for more than 25 years, it lies in a conundrum now, a major conundrum, considering the fact that the two factions that have broken out, like the one faction that is broken out from Shivsena, CM Shinde faction, they have also given a permission saying that they want to hold the Dussehra Merava, the Dussehra meet, annual Dussehra event that takes place of the Shivsena. Uddhav Thackeray has challenged both the BJP as well as CM Shinde, saying that we will be holding it this year. You can do whatever you want about the technicalities and permissions. You have to take care of it. We will be doing it this year. And we times now spoke to Sada Sarvankar, the local MLA from Shivaji Park. He belongs to the CM Shinde camp. We saw how he is hitting out at Aditya Thackeray, saying that he doesn't know anything about permission, and it will be the real Hindutva party, basically the party of CM Shinde, that will be holding the Dussehra rally at Shivaji Park. So clearly the face-off intensifies between the two rival camps. Who will be victorious? That will be extremely paramount, and this is also in the run-up to the crucial BMC elections that will be scheduled around 2 months after Dussehra. So whoever gets the permission to hold the rally at Shivaji Park, you can say that the semi-final will be won by that party.
Right. Thank you, Arunil, for joining us with those inputs. It will be very interesting to see how this turf battle pans out from here on. We move on to another story. This is the era of Atmanirbhar Bharat. This engineering marvel that you are seeing on your screens is a testimony that India is a major stakeholder in global world power. INS Vikrant is the largest ship ever made in India by India and is the biggest nightmare for our enemies. This 262 meters long and 62 meter wide beast of a ship consists of 14 decks with over 2,000 compartments, which can carry around 1,500 sea warriors, and has been built at an overall cost of close to 20,000 crore rupees. It is not only a floating city but a floating airfield as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today said that the aircraft carrier is a testimony of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Let go all lights. Let go all lights.
Full ahead for charge. विक्रांत विशाल है, विराट है, विहंगम है. विक्रांत विशिष्ट है, विक्रांत विशेष भी है. विक्रांत केवल एक युद्धपोत नहीं है, ये 21वीं सदी के भारत के परिश्रम, प्रतिभा, प्रभाव और प्रतिबद्धता का प्रमाण है।
But with the arrival of one of the biggest disruptors in maritime history, the fight for credit too also erupted. Congress termed that INS Vikrant is a collective effort of all governments since 1999. But the Prime Minister is ignoring the continuity in governance. On the other hand, taking a swipe, Owaisi said that with the commissioning of new ship, Prime Minister would finally have the courage to address the China issue.
I have congratulated the Navy and the Cochin shipyard for making this commissioning of Vikrant a reality, and credit should go to them. But at the same time, I am very much surprised and saddened that the Prime Minister of our country and his government is not willing to sanction a third aircraft carrier, which is very much needed for our country. This clearly shows that the economy, Indian economy, has been destroyed under the stewardship of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi.
इंडियन नेवी के डिज़ाइनर जो हैं, इंडियन नेवी के इंजीनियर हैं, इंडियन नेवी के अफसर हैं, कोचिन शिपयार्ड में जो लोग काम करते हैं, 20-22 साल लगे हैं डिज़ाइन करने में, मैन्युफैक्चर करने में, ट्रायल करने में। आज के प्रधानमंत्री तो फोटो लेंगे, बड़े बड़े भाषण देंगे और कहेंगे मैं आया 2014 में ये सब शुरुआत हुई। ये बिल्कुल गलत है, बेबुनियाद है। देखिए, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री के गुण हैं, वो सब काम के लिए वो श्रेय खुद लेना चाहते हैं।
आईएनएस विक्रांत तो प्रतीक है कि हमारे सामरिक समृद्धि का, ताकत का। और प्रधानमंत्री जी को जरूर पता होगा कि 2009, 11 और 2013 उनके आने से पूर्व 3 महत्वपूर्ण माइलस्टोन्स, अगर अपने भाषण में उसका भी जिक्र करते तो एक बृहद संदेश जाता कि सामरिक मामलों में कम से कम हम एक दायरे से ऊपर उठ करके एक्नॉलेज कर रहे हैं कि 2009 में क्या हुआ, 11 में क्या हुआ, 13 में क्या हुआ, वो महत्वपूर्ण है।
इट्स अ ग्रेट स्टेप फॉरवर्ड्स इन द इंडियन डिफेंस लैंडस्केप दैट INS Vikrant, the most modern naval ship, is getting commissioned today. The whole country is proud, but to tie up India's defense mechanism and defense strategy with that of countries like US, Australia, Japan may not be very favorable for Indian defense system.
The question is, can the Congress party really claim its credit on INS Vikrant? Congress says it is a collective effort since 1999, but UPA's defense minister in 2014 in the parliament said that the government does not have enough funds for defense modernization. Congress says that AK Antony was the one who had launched INS Vikrant in 2013, but the reality is that only phase 1 contract out of 4 was signed. Congress claims that the original INS Vikrant served us well in 1971 war, but it was the Vajpayee government that initiated the project of Vikrant 2.0. The opposition also claims that self-reliant India existed even before 2014 when the NDA government came to power, but conveniently forgets Rajiv Gandhi and family using Viraat as a getaway ship for their vacation in 1987. India is not only turning the tide in its favor but is also shedding the signs of slavery. Yes, Indian Navy got a new ensign today as well. This ensign drops St. George's Cross and introduces the Indian Navy crest on a navy blue background enclosed in an octagon, which represents the royal seal of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, a departure from the colonial mindset.
भारतीय स्वतंत्रता दिवस पर मैंने लाल किले से पंच प्राण का आह्वान किया और हमारे हरि जी ने भी इसका उल्लेख किया। इन पंच प्राणों में पहला प्राण है विकसित भारत का बड़ा संकल्प, दूसरा प्राण है गुलामी की मानसिकता का संपूर्ण त्याग। तीसरा प्राण है अपनी विरासत पर गर्व। चौथा और पांचवा प्राण है देश की एकता, एकजुटता और नागरिक कर्तव्य। आईएनएस विक्रांत के निर्माण और इसकी यात्रा में हम इन सभी पंच प्राणों की ऊर्जा को देख सकते हैं।
Now, the defense experts have opined that INS Vikrant will give a major boost to provide the maritime security to the nation.
We work on a concept of capability rather than an adversary. The intent is to have capability adequate to protect our area of interest and our national interest. Vikrant would enhance this capability while working and operating in tandem with the existing carrier Vikramaditya.
About 550 entities, small, big, have been involved here. MSMEs, slightly more than 100 MSMEs have been involved, service providers and suppliers. Large PSUs and large Indian companies like SAIL, HAL, BHEL, Bharat Electronics, Larsen & Toubro, Tata Power, Kirloskar, they've all been involved here. Now, if you have to do something again, we started this when we did not have the detailed knowledge about an aircraft carrier, but we had significant shipbuilding knowledge and warship building experience. But now that we have an aircraft carrier, we understand the difficulties, we understand the pluses, minuses, and where to concentrate. I would stick my neck out and say 7 to 8 years if we are deriving largely from a similar platform.
New aircraft carrier which India has built is a major step in our indigenous shipbuilding. Rightly you said that it is the largest warship ever built by India. It is a symbol of the strength of our shipbuilding, and it will give the maritime power which the India requires in the Indian Ocean region to protect its economic interests. This carrier will certainly give a boost to provide the maritime security to the nation that it requires.
Time for us to take a very quick break, but we'll tell you on the other side what is the reason behind Samajwadi Party's Tyagi twist.